this is Thursday, June, it sounds like I have an echo here. Am I doing some, sir? I just hear it, but it's okay. All right. Hi, this is Thursday, June 13th, 2019, and I'm calling to order the BRN meeting, and I'm Trandy Phillips, the president of the board. And I'd like to take a moment of personal privilege to thank all of you for being here today and to acknowledge the fact that the board is really happy to be here. In the board's history, as far as I could find, going back in history, this is the first time we've ever met in Reading. And it's a pleasure. It's a beautiful area. We're really learning a lot about the history, and it's just lovely, and we're so happy to be here. And we also want to thank anybody that doesn't know it's a beautiful area and doesn't live here, that came up here for the meetings, enjoy it. And we're really happy that you came today. So I just want to say that. Also, are there any nurses? Well, there are nurses in the room. Are there any nursing students or working nurses in the area, besides our educators and managers, but people that came to this area having the opportunity since we were in Reading? I'd like to see hands if there is anybody. Okay. I think part of that is we had students that came yesterday, and I think part of it is it's a difficult time of year no matter where we meet because people are out of school. And when they're out of school, they've got jobs and family and other things. So I'm sure we'll have more at other meetings, but it was really nice to see them yesterday. So now getting back to the agenda, I'm going to take item 1.0, which is called order, roll call, and establishment of quorum, and I'm going to start on my left.
Good morning, Ken Marlborough, Senate appointee.
Trandy Phillips, I'm president of the board. I'm a direct care provider, and I was appointed by the governor.
Hi, I'm Dr. Joe Morris. I'm the executive officer of the board.
Good morning, Elizabeth Woods, appointed by the governor in the advanced practice role.
Good morning, Melissa Butkowitz, public member appointed by the governor. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Michael Jackson. I'm appointed by the governor in the faculty role, and I'd like to thank everybody for being here. And when we first got here, it was 110.
It's still 110.
And I'm from San Diego, so, you know, me and Mr. Marlborough, we're not used to that. Oh, by the way, Mr. Marlborough on the end there, he is our newest board member appointed to the board by the Senate Rules Committee. So we're very excited to have him. He comes with a vast amount of experience and high recommendations from other members of the board from San Diego. He is a retired deputy chief firefighter. I hear rumors there might be a calendar of him floating about somewhere, so calm down.
I got rid of that calendar. My wife didn't like it.
So now I want to go forward, and the next thing on the agenda is item 2.0, and that's public comment for items not on the agenda. And if people would like to come forward with public comment, we have two tables up here. And please, before you start your public comment, identify yourselves. So if anybody would like to come forward, please, now's your opportunity.
Good morning. Is it on?
Should be.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Cora Brownell from College of the Siskiyous, and I am so pleased you are up this far. We're at the very far north of the state, as you can go, and so this makes it doable. So thank you for being here. I'm here today not only representing my own college, but also the California Community Colleges Nursing Advisory Committee, which overlooks a lot of the legislation that's going on and the plans for legislation. So I just appreciate your support on a lot of issues that are going on now for our colleges, and the support that we can have for example, the simulation. I think what we need in that case has to do with financial support that we can get, and anything that you can do on your end to influence the approval of legislation and funding for training instructors. So I appreciate that very much.
Thank you. Is there any more public comment?
Excuse me, ma'am. If you have any, for any of you that coming up, if you have any written comments, you'd like to leave them with the board, please leave them with our staff in the back there, Eloise, so she can assist you.
Thank you. So now we'll be moving on to item 3.0, which is review and vote on whether to approve the minutes. And the minutes are all included in the meeting materials if you want to look at them online. So now I'm going to make an motion that we approve the minutes for March 14th.
I second it.
Okay. All right, so I'm approving March 14th, April 10th, and 11th, May 9th, and May 28th, 2019 minutes, and that's what I have a second for, correct?
Correct.
All right. So then, is there any discussion by the board? Is there any public discussion? All right, then I'd like to take the vote, starting on my left.
I will abstain because I wasn't at the meeting.
That's our new member. I vote yes to approve.
Woods, yes.
Imelda Ceja Butkowitz, yes.
Michael Jackson, yes.
All right. So moving on to item 4.0, which is report on board members' activities. So if any of my board members have activities that they would like to address, this is your opportunity. Do I see anybody? Okay. With no comments on that, then I'm going to move on to our next agenda item, which is 5.0, board and department activities. And we're going to do the 5.1, which is the executive officer report. Also online, if you want to look at it in the materials. And I hand this over to our executive officer, Dr. Morris.
Thank you, Madam President. Beginning with 5.0, the organizational updates. As always, the board continues to review its internal business processes, and we're happy to tell you that the board appeared before the Assembly and Senate Budget Subcommittee in April to request additional staff in our budget change proposal. The request was for 67 additional staff, and we're happy to say again, it was approved by the Department of Finance and signed into the governor's budget earlier this year. This is the largest budget change proposal in the history of the board and perhaps of the department. And again, we're happy to say that we will be getting additional staff to help further the mission of the board. Thank you for your support on that. And also I want to acknowledge the Department of Consumer Affairs for all their support as well, helping us move the budget proposal through the process.
Yeah, we have a representative for the DCA here, and we really want to thank him for his support. Thank you, and take that back to them from us. We really appreciate that support.
Yes, indeed. Moving on to outreach efforts, the board is scheduled to release a newly designed report to highlight the board's efforts and emerging topics. That report / magazine is in its final production. The report will be distributed to constituents throughout the state of California to better inform them about the matters, including enforcement, licensing, education, and other pertinent trends in the nursing profession. So be on the lookout for that report. We're very excited about it, and it should be coming really soon. Also, we're happy to note that the Board Enforcement Division launched its first statewide webinar on June 5th. This was launched to the deans and directors to better educate them about the enforcement process. The webinar highlighted issues regarding disclosure, things to disclose during the application process, also during the documentation requirements that are required when submitting an application, denial and appeal process, and also a brief overview of the probation intervention program. This webinar also was followed up by a brief survey that we gave to the deans and directors to receive any feedback, and that data is currently being analyzed. Our next step would be to launch a similar webinar to our hospitals and community constituents as well. So I think maybe in a couple of weeks we should be launching that. And so if you know anyone from the community, that are community partners, and they want to log on to this webinar, we encourage you to share the link with them.
Dr. Morris, besides that, isn't there also going to be something online on the website?
Oh yes, thank you, Madam President. A copy of the webinar will be available on the board's website. I would imagine probably in a week or so. It's currently being edited and updated. So those deans and directors who did not get a chance to log on to see the webinar, we encourage them to log on and share that information with the students. Now, I will say, because we traditionally will have the enforcement division, the chiefs, go out and give these presentations at the board meetings. This does not displace those efforts.
Okay.
So we still plan to have staff go out and speak, do live presentations to the community. However, we recognize there are some places that we have not been able to reach. For example, Reading. And the goal is to continue to do these webinars so that we can reach all areas of the state and just better inform them about the enforcement process. And not just students. Our goal is also to reach those nurses who have been practicing for many years, who just are not aware of the enforcement process. Moving on to 5.2, for those deans and directors and other interested parties who were inquiring about the annual school report, it is now available online and ready to view. And as you know, the Board of Nursing contracts with UCSF to collect data and provide annual information on the nursing programs, faculty, and students. Moving on to 5.3, the board continues to comply with the public records requests and respond within the required timeframes that are set in Government Code Section 6250. For the period of April 10, 2019 to June 5th, 2019, the board received and processed 15 public records requests. 5.4, something I'm also excited about regarding technology update. The board worked with DCA's OIS Breeze team to implement a process that would issue courtesy email notifications to RNs regarding their license renewal. The electronic process was implemented on May 15, 2019. Therefore, nurses are encouraged to go on to the Breeze and update their Breeze account. They need to fill out the name and address request form in order to benefit from this service. Email notifications will be sent to RNs 90, 45, and 15 days prior to the license expirations. So I want to re-emphasize that. 90, 45, and 15 days prior to expiration. So nurses, you will have plenty of time to update. Actually, you have plenty of time now to update your Breeze account, and you will be notified in enough time. Therefore, there shouldn't be any reasons why you cannot, comply with the renewal process. You will also be receiving a postcard in the mail reminding you of your license renewal. Hopefully, we can move away from any of the paper process and just rely on the email notifications. But we do understand that some people don't check their emails as regular. So please update your Breeze account so that you can take advantage of this service. 5.5.
Excuse me, Dr. Morris.
Yes, sir.
Would you also, can I just let them know that we no longer send hard cards in the mail? We no longer send the hard cards in the mail because I get questions frequently about this from our more experienced nurses. Because they want to hold on to that card, forever. They don't want it pried from their cold, dead hands. You know how it goes.
Yeah, this has been in effect for almost several years now. But those nurses who are just renewing their license, who are up for renewal this year, they may be expecting a hard card. So please do not call the board. Don't email us or show up at the front desk requesting a hard card because you will not receive one. Okay?
I'd like to make a comment on that too, and that's just one of the more mature nurses that held on to my hard card for years, and it was always there in my wallet.
Experienced.
Yes, I know. But from a public safety standpoint, was part of the reason we can't give people a sense of security and the public a sense of security by having that hard card, because really it doesn't mean anything. the employer and other people that we interact with that want to know about our licensing status really need to go to the update information on the web, because that's updated continuously. So that we should educate people that if they want to know about a nurse's status, it's very easy to do, but they need to go onto the web with the BRN site so they can actually see their current status. Because that's so critical, and not just assume because somebody come up with a piece of plastic that they're a licensed nurse in good standing. So there was a cost factor, but the main thing was security and safety for the nurses and the public, that accurate information be out there available.
Thank you, Madam President. You're correct. So again, moving on to 5.5, the budget update. The governor's revised budget was made available May 9th, 2019, and pursuant to Section 0760, the State Administration Manual, the Department of Consumer Affairs is required to prepare an annual out-of-state travel blanket for all anticipated trips for fiscal year 2019 to 2020. So that report is available, and it was made available to the Department of Consumer Affairs. The board continues to also monitor its expenditures to ensure that we are fiscally healthy. The board is projected to end this fiscal year with a surplus of $260,000. As of May of 2019, the board has expended 75% of the Attorney General's budget. The board is expected to expend 81% of the total budget related to enforcement issues later this year. The board is on track to fund the remaining enforcement costs through the remainder, again, of this fiscal year. For a complete detailed list of the fund condition, you can review that on page 5 of my EO report. And as far as staffing update, we currently have 10 positions that we're actively being recruited for. And for more information regarding the job availability, we do ask that you log on to the board's website to see those positions that are currently being recruited for. Madam President, that concludes my report, and I have no more to add.
All right, thank you very much. So now we're going to move on to 6.0, which is the report of the Administrative Committee. And the first item that we'll be discussing will be 6.1, review, discussion, and possible action on regulatory proposal to modify California Code of Regulations, Article 3, Sections 1423, approval requirements, and 1432, changes to an approved program. And that information is online. And I'd like to make a motion. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Thelma, could you come forward? Do you have your report? Yeah. Thelma's rather new in this role. We're so happy to have her. But there are some changes that have taken place now that we have staff that's specifically doing this new role on legislation and regulation, and Thelma's our person. So she'll be here right away and explain what we're doing. Thank you, Thelma.
You're welcome. Thelma Harris, Chief of Legislation for the Board of Registered Nursing. And I'm here to discuss the changes that have been made regarding California Code of Regulations, Title 16, Division 14, Article 3. The agenda item summary in the meeting materials will contain the specific changes to the previously approved language, and that language is in reference to 1423B and 1432B. The recommendations for the board are to withdraw the approval of the language approved on May 9th, 2019, to approve the attached regulation language, authorize the executive officer to make any technical and non-substantive changes if needed, and proceed with the process of promulgating the proposed regulations.
Thank you very much. So now I would like to make a motion, And I move that the board, I move for the board to, number one, withdraw approval of the language approved on May 9th of 2019. Number two, approve the attached regulation language. Number three, authorize the executive officer to make any technical and non-substantive changes if needed. And number four, to proceed with the process of promulgating the proposed regulations. And do I have a second?
Second it.
All right. Having moved and seconded, is there any comment or questions from the board? Okay, are there any comments from the public? All right, having moved and seconded this motion, having no further comments, we will move to the vote. So on my left,
Marlboro, yes.
Phillips, yes.
Woods, yes.
Seha Butkowitz, yes.
Michael Jackson, yes.
Thank you very much, Thelma. All right, so now we're going to move on to item number 6.2, which is discussion and possible action regarding revised board meeting dates on our calendar for 2020. If you go to the administrative report, you'll see a listing of not only the dates, but also the locations. And when we're doing it in the future, we do just, I would say, north and south. We don't give specific locations. But these are our dates. In some of the months, it'll be a 2-day meeting. Other months, it'll be a 1-day meeting. So I now have that posted, and I would like, if there's a motion.
I make a motion, we approve the dates.
A second.
Okay, and I have a second. Is there any board comment? Is there any public comment? Okay, seeing no comment, I'm going to switch it up this time and go to my right and start with Mr. Jackson.
Michael Jackson, yes.
Melda Seha Butkowitz, yes.
Woods, yes.
Phillips, yes.
Marlboro, yes.
All right, so that's done. Excellent. Now we're going to be moving on to item 7.0, but before I move on to 7.0, I'd like a point of personal privilege. I think it's, we keep our personal lives separate, but there's some things that are just so overwhelming in people's lives that I think when a group works together a lot and people have been so committed to what they do for this organization and for others that we just really need to acknowledge. And I'd like to give us a moment of silence for Michael Jackson. His mother passed away not too long ago, and it's always so sad to lose a parent. And I know Michael's grieving, but he still came to this meeting today. And I just want to honor the fact he came and honor his mother. So I'd like a moment of silence, please. Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Jackson, I hand this over to you to do your report of the Education and Licensing Committee.
Thank you very much, Madam
And if you
Chair.
want to take a minute, that's fine.
No, I'm good.
But I needed to do that.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 7.0, report of the Education Licensing Committee. I'd like for the staff to introduce themselves.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Carol Vellis, Education Licensing Committee Liaison. Let's begin with agenda item 7.1, and this is vote on whether to recommend ratification of minor curriculum revision and acknowledge receipt of program progress reports. According to the board policy, nursing education consultants may approve minor curriculum changes that do not significantly alter philosophy, objectives, or content. Approvals must be reported to the Education Licensing Committee and the board. These minor curriculum revisions and progress reports were presented at the May 9th, 2019 Education Licensing Committee, and they include the following categories: curriculum changes, work-study programs, preceptor programs, public health nurse certificate programs, progress reports that are not related to continuing approval and approved nurse practitioner programs, adding a category of specialization. And the following programs are listed for your benefit.
I make a motion that we accept item 7.1.
I will second the motion.
Are there any public comments? Any comments from the board? Seeing none, Michael Jackson, yes.
Imelda Seha Butkowitz, yes.
Woods, yes.
Phillips, yes.
Marlboro, yes.
Moving on to agenda item 7.2, vote on whether to approve Education and Licensing Committee recommendations. The Education and Licensing Committee met on May 9th, 2019, and makes the following recommendations. 7.2.1, recommend ratification of applications for pre-licensure continuing approval, including University of San Diego entry-level master's pre-licensure nursing program, Stanbridge University Associate Degree Nursing Program, Mount San Antonio College Associate Degree Nursing Program, Napa Valley College Associate Degree Nursing Program, and Porterville College Associate Degree Nursing Program.
Thank you very much. On item 7.2.1, I make a recommendation we accept, and I will abstain from the University of San Diego.
I will second his motion.
We're getting clarification here from the attorney. And just use your microphone.
It's okay. So you can vote on everything, and we'll just do a second motion for the University of San Diego.
Okay, so the item 7.2.1, we're voting on Stainbridge University and Mount San Jacinto College, and Napa Valley and Porterville College.
Okay, and we need a second for that,
Second.
so I'll second it, that motion.
Any public comment? Any comments from the board? Seeing none, Michael Jackson votes yes.
Imelda Ceja Butkowitz, yes.
Woods, yes.
Phillips, yes.
Malbro, yes.
University. The motion.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to approve University of San Diego entry-level master's pre-licensure nursing program.
I'll second that.
Okay. So we've moved and seconded that, so is there any board comment? Any public comment? So let's move to the vote.
Michael Jackson abstains.
Imelda Ceja Butkowitz, yes.
Woods, yes.
Phillips, yes.
Malbro, yes.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 7.2.2, recommend ratification of application for advanced practice application for continuing approval at University of San Diego Advanced Practice Nurse Practitioner Program.
I would like to make a motion to approve University of San Diego Advanced Practice Nurse Practitioners Program.
I'll second that.
Okay, we've moved and seconded that, so is there any board comment? Any public comment? Then we'll move to the vote.
Michael Jackson abstains.
Imelda Ceja Butkowitz, yes.
Woods, yes.
Phillips, yes.
Malbro, yes.
Thank you. Item 7.2.3, recommend ratification of pre-licensure program unit adjustment or other changes. And these are all curriculum revisions. Dominican University of California Baccalaureate Degree Nursing Program, De Anza College Associate Degree Nursing Program, and San Bernardino Valley College Associate Degree Nursing Program.
Item 7.2.3, I make a recommendation we accept.
I will second the motion.
Any public comment or comments from the board? Seeing none, Michael Jackson votes yes.
Imelda Ceja Butkowitz, yes.
Woods, yes.
Phillips, yes.
Malbro, yes.
Agenda item 7.2.4, recommend approval of pre-licensure program unit adjustment or other changes. And this has to do with Compton College and El Camino separating as from one college to two colleges, and it was their curriculum revisions that were approved by ELC. So it's Compton College Associate Degree Nursing Program and El Camino College Associate Degree Nursing Program.
Make a recommendation we accept item 7.2.4.
I will second the motion.
Public comment? Comment from the board? Seeing none, Michael Jackson votes yes.
Imelda Ceja Butkowitz, yes.
Woods, yes.
Phillips, yes.
Malbro, yes.
Agenda item 7.2.5, recommend acceptance of progress report from Glendale Career College San Diego Associate Degree Nursing Program.
I move that we accept the progress report for Glendale Career College San Diego Associate Degree Nursing Program.
I'll second that.
Any comment from the board? Any comment from the public? Michael Jackson, yes.
Imelda Ceja Butkowitz, yes.
Woods, yes.
Phillips, yes.
Malbro, yes.
Agenda item 7.2.6, recommend approval of pre-licensure program enrollment increase at Bakersfield College Associate Degree Nursing Program.
I would like to make a motion to approve 7.26, Bakersfield College Associate's Degree Nursing Program.
Second it. Are there any public comment? Any comments from the board? Seeing none, Michael Jackson votes yes.
Imelda Ceja Butkowitz, yes.
Woods, yes.
Phillips, yes.
Malbro, yes.
And finally, agenda item 7.2.7, recommend acceptance of delay in proposal for refining approval process for matters found in California Code of Regulation, Title 16, Division 14, Article 3.
Item 7.2.7, I make a recommendation that we accept.
I'll second it.
Public comment? Comment from the board? Michael Jackson votes yes.
Imelda Sehabad votes yes.
Woods, yes.
Phillips, yes.
Marlboro, yes.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 7.3.1. This is vote on whether to accept and approve feasibility study for new pre-licensure nursing program at Fresno Pacific University, which is a baccalaureate degree nursing program.
Thank you. This is Jeanette Wackerly, the Supervising Nursing Education Consultant from Sacramento. I'd like to present this school, please, but I have to find it first. I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce Dr. Stacy Wise immediately to my right, and immediately to her right is the Division Dean of Healthcare Services at the school, Don DeBoli. This is a presentation from Fresno Pacific University, and they are requesting to initiate a BSN program. They're a faith-based school, Mennonite, and they've been in operation, I believe, in Fresno since 1944. And so they do have, do I need to read my report, or can I just talk about it? I think that the report will be inclusive of that they have a history.
You could just give us the highlights.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. As they go forward with this request, it's a request for a limited number of students to process through the school in the beginning, coming as freshmen, and then in the second year of their program that they will apply for the nursing program. And when admitted, will go to the junior year of the nursing program and then through the senior year. They have limited the number of students that can process through, and I'll let Dr. Wise talk about that in just a moment. The clinical placements, this is a Fresno-based program, so they're well aware of the process in Fresno for clinical facilities. They've been a member of that since the inception of that group, and so they will use that. Also in your report, there's a list of hospitals that are in the general area of Fresno, and I don't anticipate that they will have a problem with the number of students that they're bringing on board or fitting within their system of allocation of clinical sites within Fresno. According to the report, they have adequate funding sources. They have both internal funding sources as well as tuition for students. They have their accreditation. They are WASC accredited and have been so for many years. They have CCNE approval for their RN to BSN and for their MSN program. And so Dr. Wise is telling me they will be CCNE approved for this BSN program when you approve it. The next step in the process, if approved by the board in this feasibility stage, is to build the program itself, and that would include the curriculum. And they're going to use the essentials of baccalaureate education to build that curriculum, and that's partially in the report. So today we're here to ask any questions of the participants that you might like to know and have them say a few words. Dr. Wise?
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I agree this is a beautiful place to host the meeting, so thank you for that. The mountain has my attention for sure. As Jeanette said, we are starting out fairly small. Our goal is to enroll 24 students over the first few years and gradually increase to 48 after we have made assurances that there will be no clinical displacement. And we've been working on this for several years, so it's really a dream come true finally. And so we present to you what we think will be a wonderful faith-based program that will serve the needs of the San Joaquin Valley.
Are there any questions or comments from the board? We heard extensively at the committee meeting about their program.
I just want to thank you, in the Central Valley, much needed services for nurses, and so I want to thank you for stepping and look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much.
I do have a question, it may be in here, but
Yes.
I don't have it in my mind right now. Are you going to be having an advanced practice program?
We do currently have a family nurse practitioner, Master of Science in Nursing program that is CCNE accredited as well. That will continue, and we have an RN to BSN program as well, and then we want to start this pre-licensure program, so that will make 3 programs in total once approved.
Thank you.
Question for you. Are you working with the Central Valley? I know they have a consortium group there.
Yes, we've been members of that consortium for several years and have maintained that membership and are in good standing, and they have not given us any reason to think that we would be displacing students or not welcome to place a maximum of 24 students.
On another note, I'm sure our previous member, Pilar de la Cruz, would be very proud to have you aboard. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions from the board? Seeing no other questions, I make a recommendation that we accept their feasibility study.
I will second the motion.
Are there any comments from the public? Any further comments from the board? Seeing none, Michael Jackson votes yes.
Imelda Seja Batgotz, yes.
Woods, yes.
Phillips, yes.
Malbro, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 7.3.2, vote on whether to accept and approve feasibility study for new pre-licensure nursing program, Unitech College, Bakersfield, baccalaureate degree nursing program. To my right is Dr. Yosef, who is the current program director at Unitech Fremont campus. So this report is a request for a new pre-licensure nursing program in Bakersfield. As you know, Bakersfield is located in Central Valley. Following is the highlights of the feasibility report. As recent as February 2019, the board did approve a major curriculum revision for Unitech Fremont to change their program from an associate degree nursing program to a baccalaureate degree nursing program. So moving forward, Unitech Fremont will be a baccalaureate program, and this new proposed program in Bakersfield will also be a baccalaureate pre-licensure nursing program. Dr. Yosef is currently the program director, and he will also remain the program director for the Bakersfield campus as well. According to the feasibility study, Bakersfield is a city in Kern County, and there is a need for nurses in that area. I've provided several resources, or actually Dr. Yosef in his feasibility study provided several current resources that show there is a need for nurses in the Bakersfield region. It also shows that Bakersfield is an underserved county. It's one of the poorest regions and has great health needs and access to care issues. Unitech College in Fremont is accredited by the Accrediting Commission of Career Colleges and Schools, as well as the Bureau of Post-Secondary Education. In 2018, Bakersfield campus was also granted an initial branch inclusion status for a 2-year term ending March 1st, 2020. Unitech's RN to BSN program is accredited by the Commission on Collegiate Nursing Education, CCNE, and Unitech is also approved by the Department of Education to receive Title IV funding. Unitech has used the BRN annual report data to demonstrate there are adequate qualified RNs in the Bakersfield area that would be enrolled in this new program. Unitech currently has an LVN program in Bakersfield, as well as other health sciences programs, and they will offer this baccalaureate program to their LVN graduates for advanced placement positions in that program. The proposed enrollment for this new program in Bakersfield is 40 students 3 times a year for a total annual enrollment of 120 students. The curriculum that was recently approved by the board for the Unitech Fremont campus will be the same baccalaureate degree nursing curriculum at this new program in Bakersfield. The 3-year program is 3 16-week semesters a year. The first year is taught online and will take care of all the prerequisites. And then the second and third year are nursing courses with theory and clinical concurrently administered and taught on ground. So first year is online, the second 2 with nursing core is on ground. Total number of units is 120, 74 units for licensure and 46 for other degree requirements. I just wanted to make sure that you were comfortable with our NCLEX pass rates at Unitech right now, Unitech Fremont. Their current pass rates for the 2017-2018 full year was 87.74%, and currently for the first, second, and third quarters of 2018-2019. They've been well above with 93.18, 94.59, and 89.47. We don't have the results of April and June yet, but I expect them to be high as well. They did have a dip in their NCLEX pass rates from 2014 to 2017, but the program itself did a very deep investigation of what some of the issues were and wrote a very extensive and comprehensive plan to bring those pass rates up. Dr. Susan Engel is the nursing education consultant for the Fremont campus. She visited the campus and she did confirm and verify that all of these were in place, and it shows in their recent pass rates now. Dr. Yosef has reached out to both Cal State Bakersfield and Bakersfield City College to plan to work collaboratively. He did attend a meeting on June 10th with Carla Gard from Bakersfield Community College, and they talked about really the community needs in the area, as well as the collaborative effort to provide clinical spaces for all students, including the new students at this campus. Dr. Yosef has reported that the meeting was very successful, and I'm sure it was because Bakersfield City College is also one of my schools, and I know Carla Gard is very willing to work with Dr. Yosef. Dr. Yosef and Unitech Bakersfield will participate in CCPS, which is the computerized clinical placement system in that area. The resources, this again is going to be Unitech is an existing campus in Fresno, and this will be a new campus. They do have the vocational nursing, medical office administration, and medical assisting. The new building, the existing building in Bakersfield is about 10,000 square feet, and then they are expanding that building with an additional 7,000 square feet to accommodate the new program, as well as almost 3,700 square feet for simulation lab. And that work is being completed now and will be completed in full by the time of the first admission. During the self-study phase, which if you do accept this feasibility study will be the next phase, I will attend the campus and we will be viewing the clinical sites as well as the physical space, so I can come back and report on that for you. The total cost of the pre-licensure BSN program in Bakersfield is going to be $133,900. A projected 3-year financial model for this initial and sustainable provision for this new program demonstrated a profit, and there is a cash reserve currently of $3 million. The education and licensing recommendation was to accept this feasibility study. The next phase of the process will be the self-study, which has been submitted and will be presented to ELC in the very near future. And this concludes my report. Dr.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments or questions from the committee?
Yes, I'd like to ask a question. I'd like you to explain about the Department of Education's heightened cash monitoring list that your college is on.
Well, our college, there's, for the Department of Education, they use the composite score, which is a certain formula they use to calculate the financial status of the company. And that take in consideration the profit and loss and some other factors to come up with the equation itself. That's not my area of expertise because that's more of the financial aid aspects. But I know for sure that our schools, we have 7 schools in California and we have 3 in Utah. So we, as a Unitech Learning, the parent company, has 10 campuses in 2 different states. And we are very financially stable and able to add more and more programs. And that I would say, I won't be able to answer exactly to why the number is below, because that's more of a financial aid question. But I know they have a certain formula to calculate for this composite score, and it depends how the funding goes from the source of funding for the school. But the school is well financially sound, stable, and that shows records. We have $3 million in reserve just for Bakersfield campus, and we are one of the largest vocational nursing provider in California. We have about 750 licensed vocational nurse every year graduate from our campuses in California only. In addition to Utah, We have the BSN and the Master's in Nursing program. So I'm not worried about the financial status. Actually, we are very well financially sound. It's just the way that calculation goes. It shows the number below the 1.5, and that could be the reason it's on there. But I'm not an expert in that financial aid part.
Well, I appreciate everything you're saying, but warning status does concern the board. We've had several schools, and these were schools that were companies that said, we're all over the United States, and in parts of the United States, everything's just fine. And then the students and the professors have shown up to school to have a sign on the door saying we're closed. And then this board has had to deal with trying to help to support the students and the public and what to do about people that were in these programs that all of a sudden ceased to exist. So a warning status is a concern for this board.
Sure,
You may not be a financial expert, but I think it's information we need to know more about.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that I wanted to know besides that is it's very ambitious to add start out at an annual enrollment of 120 students. You're not slowly enrolling as this program rolls out. You're doing the max enrollment to begin with. I think that we still have some questions for this board.
That's no problem.
Get answered.
Let me answer the first part. The schools,
please.
yeah, the schools, if you look at the schools that went down lately, because
Yes,
everybody's
and there's
watching,
been several of them lately.
most of those schools, they went down because their major programs are not nursing. The nursing was a side program for them. They went down at the corporate level nationwide because of having other programs that were not successful and end up having violations with the financial aid. We had a Department of Ed visit, which is a compliance visit, last year. And the team of 4 people came into our main campus in Fremont. And at the end of the day, they gave us 0 violations for all aspects of administering financial aid. We are mostly nursing school, and that's unique about Unitech, that we invest all in nursing. That's why the largest program for us is vocational nursing. The second is the RN program. And that's why I'm confident that we are very well stable, but we will provide you with more information. That's the first part. The second part, which is about enrollment. Enrollment is based on the community need. We did a very good visibility study, as Dr. Velez reviewed it, and we looked at the demand in the area. San Joaquin Valley area has more than 26% of the nurses are way experienced, like more than 55 years old to 69 years old. We know there will be a lot of people retiring soon. And we know also that there is a need in the community. That's why, and we have the resources to support that. So we would like to ask for that. And Dr. Velez, in her visit to our campus after this phase, she will be able to evaluate if we are able really to support that number or not by going to visit our clinical facility, by seeing the resources we're going to put in, because we're going to invest a lot in the Bakersfield campus and make it state of the art when it comes to simulation and technology and active learning and all that high, and technology in teaching and learning. And in order to support that investment, we would like to have that kind of number of enrollment to make it sustainable. Now, we want, of course, and that again goes back to the board and Dr. Velez to support in the next phase if this number is something doable, or she find out that the numbers could not be possible at this time. And we do respect the board decision at that time.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, please. Emma.
Thank you.
Can I just interrupt for a second, Madam President? I just wanted to also point out that according to Dr. Spetz's report,
Yes.
her recent report, about a third of the graduating RNs from the Bakersfield area actually outmigrate. So I think it's twofold. We have retiring nurses, and then we also have nurses that don't stay in the area. A third is quite a lot. So, and I think we also understand that need from the recent enrollment increase at Bakersfield Community College. So I think there is a need for nurses there. But I certainly will look at everything when I'm up in that area.
Now, point of clarification, when you say out-migrate, is that nurses that graduate from Bakersfield?
Nurses that are
and leave the
graduating,
area?
yeah, in her report, she says approximately 2,200 graduates, 776 out-migrated, moving out of the county.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, yeah. And I think that's why Bakersfield Community College realized the need and did the enrollment increase that they did. As you remember, it was quite a significant enrollment increase. They increased, off the top of my head, I don't remember, but it was quite significant. Actually, I can tell you.
Yeah, because normally, the research has said that nurses, when they graduate, like to stay within 40 miles of their home.
I think what we see, and I can attest to this in my own experience, because of the impact, the impaction of nursing schools, especially community colleges, nurses are willing to go to the extent of moving out of their own hometowns to go to schools like Bakersfield, where they can get in without having to wait for 2 or 3 years to get in. I know in my own experience, I had one of my babysitters actually wanted to go to nursing school, and she came to me and said, I really want to stay in the area. She lived in Moore Park, and at the time, Moore Park wait list was 3 years. It was before multi-criteria was implemented. And so I said, you know what, Bakersfield has a great school. Why don't you consider going to Bakersfield? And luckily for her, she did have a family member who lived there, so she ended up going to Bakersfield and finishing her degree in Bakersfield, and then coming back to the Ventura County area.
Thank you.
And I would totally agree that there is a need in Kern County. I'm a resident of Bakersfield, and there's definitely a need. I'm really excited. At the same time, I have my reservations because we are one of the poorest counties compared to the rest of the average of 60.9 of the rest of the state. We are the most needy, the poorest, and we have a lot of underserved population. There's definitely a need for nurses in Kern County, in the Central Valley, but I have my reservations. The tuition is extremely high. Again, we're the poorest, and so meaning that a lot of the students will not be able to afford the tuition. So I fear that, I'm hopeful that you will get the enrollment, but I'm still really concerned with the costs. So I don't know what we can do. Maybe we can work later on to maybe reduce that cost, because that's a lot of money.
When we talk about the cost, we just need to put it in context. Like, you need to look at the private schools in all California and how much they charge for a pre-licensure BSN program. And if we take the list of all the private for-profit pre-licensure BSN programs and put our tuition, we will be kind of in the middle, not at the highest. When you look at other schools, they charge $145,000, $165,000 for a pre-licensure BSN. And I understand your concern, and this is the total cost, which is most of the time very rare, small number of students will pay this total cost. This is like for somebody who has no general ed or any previous education. Most of our students, like in Fremont, none of them pays this amount because they come with an associate degree in some other science. So we give them credit granting for all that, English, micro, anatomy, all that. If they are vocational nurses, we give them credit for their nursing courses based on our credit granting policy. So if they're military and they have experience, of course so technically a very few number of students will pay the total amount.
So what would be the cost for someone with an associate's degree?
Oh, I think it could go down up to 80 something. I don't have that number exactly because the first year, which is 1/3 of tuition almost, is the general ed and science. And if somebody have a bachelor, some people have a bachelor, and actually some people come with a master's degree in some other science and they come to our BSN program. So we give them credit for all the sciences and general education, which waives a year of their education. So which means you're looking at 1/3 off of the tuition because of that first year. So then if they are LVNs, they get other courses. So that's why this is the number that we have to publish that says the cost for somebody with just the high school, have never attended any courses, which is usually in our case, we have a very small percentage of our students that way. Most of our students actually are vocational nurses who come in, who worked in the bedside for a few years, and they want to advance to the RN with a BSN. And when we give them all this credit granting, the number goes down to the 80-something.
So again, my concern is because with the costs, Kern County we don't get paid as much as LA County, Orange County, a lot of the different counties. So we lose nurses to other counties because they get paid more. And because they get paid more, they'll be able to pay their loans.
True.
So I'm afraid that even though they might take the courses there at your school, that they will actually move out of the Kern County. And again, it's going to defeat the purpose.
That could explain some of the out-migration.
Well, yeah, but the migration is happening now with, as Dr. Velez said, 30% people leave, and there's no private schools. Just the community college and Cal State Bakersfield. There's only 2 schools that provide the RN in Bakersfield, and currently 30% of the students leave because they just came from outside of the area anyway. So they came from LA to get the education and went back, or came from Fremont or San Jose, get the education and came back, as Dr. Velez mentioned the story of the person she knows. So without having the private school there, that factor is happening. People are leaving. That's why when we are building the workforce, you have to factor that in. Otherwise, you're going to be always in shortage. And shortage is going to get worse and worse if you're not able to provide the education needed to the area. And I understand your concern about when the area is under, as we said, underserved and under the poverty line. Actually, those students will be eligible for a full grants when it comes to the financial aid. So the first part of it, they will get that grant that they don't have to pay. But if they had an income, which is mid-level income, they don't get the grants because their income is good. So for example, students from Fremont will receive mostly loans from the federal government, may not receive any grants, because that students or their parents' income is probably like at least $90K or so. But the person in Bakersfield, if that person is an entry level and have maybe an income of maybe $40K, that person will receive actually a certain amount of money from the federal government. That's not a loan, it's just a grant because of their low income status. So that's going to help them because they don't have to pay that back. And then the rest will be, of course, the loans, subsidized and unsubsidized.
It seems you know a lot about the financials.
I do.
Now, but when the board member asked you earlier about the financials, you said the financial person knows about that more than you do now.
So I know more about
so
the student support.
At this time, I think the board's best course of action is to defer action at this time regarding to acceptance of the feasibility study until we get more information about this warning status. And obviously, the other board members have questions about research related to costs and migration out of the area. So my recommendation is to defer action at this time.
I second that.
Are there any public comments?
I would also make another request. You gave some examples as to some of the grants, financial aid available. Would it be possible just to compare it or give us some numbers from one of your other schools as to the students, how much did they actually pay and how much of it was grants?
Absolutely. We can do that. And I just did to Mr. Jackson notes about my experience. I know what the students can receive money-wise, but I don't know how they calculate that corporate number because that's something very unique knowledge to know how they come up with this equation to put schools in that status or not. But I know what my students get money because students come to me and I help them, just let them know that after they meet with the financial aid, I help them find a way to fund their education. And that's why I know more about that area.
Does the school itself provide any scholarships?
We do scholarships for our graduates. So if you are a graduate from our vocational nursing program, you will receive a scholarship. And we have an associate degree program online that if you are a graduate from our associate degree program, you also get a scholarship. So we have that, and I will be happy to provide the different scholarship we provide, the way that students will be receiving, basically how the students will be finding resources to fund their education. And then we can also show a comparison of the cost compared to private schools, so you can see the whole picture.
I would really like that, please.
Absolutely, yeah, no problem. We could do that.
Seeing no public comment, no more questions from the board. Michael Jackson votes yes.
Melda Seha Batquats, yes.
Woods, yes.
Phillips, yes.
Malbro, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 7.3.3, vote on whether to accept and approve feasibility study for new pre-licensure nursing program, Xavier College Associate Degree Nursing Program.
This is Janelle Barkerley again from the Sacramento office, supervising nursing education consultant, and I'm going to present Xavier College response to the deferred action that the board chose to impose at its last meeting. I'd like to read some of the data. To my immediate right is the chair or the director of Xavier College, Mrs. Miller, Dr. Miller. And I don't know who is next to her, so I would like her to introduce the other folks that are there.
On my right is Lisa Agostinelli, one of our faculty members in administrative support for clinical contracts, in case there are questions. And next to her is Renee Meza, who is administrative support for our sim lab and organizes our simulation scenarios. She would like to make a brief statement. And I'm sorry, I didn't expect the other two to be here. They wanted to support us. They're graduates of our program.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Renee Meza. I'm currently a registered nurse.
Can we have you speak up? Please move the mic to your mouth. and speak up.
Sorry. Okay. So I'm currently a registered nurse out in Stockton, California, and okay. And I just wanted to share my experiences. Oh, I am so sorry. I thought.
Go ahead and continue to introduce yourself.
All right.
You already started. Go ahead.
I am so sorry. I thought they.
No, go ahead.
She's too excited to speak.
Oh, okay.
And you're on camera.
Oh.
For the whole world to
Just
watch.
remember, you could see yourself
Just
later.
adding a little more pressure to it.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to share that I am also a former graduate at Xavier College's LVN program back in April 2014. I currently am a registered nurse out in Stockton as well. And I just wanted to share that when I did bridge over to my LVN to RN program, it was quite difficult because I did notice that in the Stockton area, we are very limited to how many programs do offer an RN program. And with that being, I did try applying to local areas. However, being waitlisted for over a year, I was ending up going all the way out to Fremont to pursue my RN degree, which made it very difficult in terms of, commuting and trying to reach my goals. But I was very determined to do so. So I did complete that. But I do notice that a lot of people who are wanting to pursue a nursing career don't have the same opportunity to go as far and to afford to commute all the way out of their way just to pursue their dreams. And so I really do believe that with another RN program in our community, it would open so many new doors to many different people who would like to pursue their careers.
Did you find a job in the area where you live?
Yes, I currently work at Lodi Memorial Hospital.
What do you do?
I'm an RN med-surg nurse on the orthopedic unit.
You have a lot of student loan debt?
I don't.
Great.
Yeah,
That's
I've
good to
actually
hear.
been a nurse for about 5 years now.
And the other two that are with you?
Go ahead. Have them introduce themselves.
Since they're here, they might as well.
Yes. We would love to hear from them.
Good morning. My name is Alexandria Ramirez. I'm actually a graduate of Xavier College. I'm here to support the opening of the RN program. They had an extremely strong program that actually prepared me to pass my boards before even walking the stage at my graduation. When I was interviewing for jobs, the school name and clinical exposure carried a lot of weight, and a lot of us found that it helped with our employment. I'm actually currently working towards my RN degree, and I'm finding that it's hard to find classes in the local areas. I don't have that support to, be able to commute, but I do have to take classes outside of Stockton. I know myself and my peers would benefit greatly from having another LVN to RN bridge in the area. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sarah Tamua. I'm a licensed LVN through Xavier. I share the same experience. I started this journey in 2010, completed prerequisites at San Joaquin Delta Community College, and applied from 2012 to 2016 and was unsuccessful to get in. At that point, I considered LVN and was accepted and completed the program. Have been able to provide for my family, work in my community. I continue to pursue my RN through community, however, I still have no guarantee. So having access to a program to bridge instead of starting all over for a 2-year program would be ideal. I don't want to have to respend resources or time. I do have a family, so it would be difficult to relocate if needed. So I'm very much in support of the program. I graduated on May 8th, and I was able to pass my boards with minimum questions on May 5th, so before graduation. We were very well prepared, and I'm in full support of the RN program at Xavier. Thank you.
Well, we want to thank you, ladies, for coming and sharing your stories, for taking the time to come to the meeting. We really appreciate it, and we wish you luck in your future endeavors, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you. As I said, it was April 11th that Xavier College came before the board requesting an RN program. And there was a question of whether there was clinical displacements. And so Chair asked that we look into that. So I'd like to discuss that a little bit right now. And the action that I'm requesting today is whether to recommend pre-licensure application or feasibility study for Xavier College. And there was a referral for the groups in Stockton to meet together to try to work out any problems that may exist in terms of clinical placement. St. Joseph Hospital and San Joaquin General Hospital provided letters to me and to the people that were in the meeting, which was the junior college and the CSU in Stanislaus. I didn't include all of them in your packet. I only included one of them. They recently had another meeting that I was not aware of when I came to this meeting today. But meeting minutes do show from St. Joe's and from San Joaquin General Hospital that there are clinical availability, and I'm not going to name, I'll let the Xavier tell you what days they are, but there are clinical days that are available to them that are not currently being used by schools in the area. St. Joseph's Hospital identified evening and night shifts are open for more student placements, although 4 schools already have placement there. I have continued to add the report, the feasibility report that they brought forward. I want to call your attention to, I asked for the hospitals to prepare a schedule for rotation to show whether or not there was room for Xavier, and you'll see that in your packet. It's multicolored, it looks like this. It's for St. Joseph's and for San Joaquin. And this is kind of preliminary timing because Xavier has not been approved yet. So these are spaces that exist today in those 2 hospitals for students. And I also want to draw your attention to the letters that were sent by St. Joseph's. And I'm at the back page. Sorry about that. Too many pages. Should have earmarked them better. The last one is from the, do you have them right there? They're in the back, hiding behind everything else. No, I have their EDP 18s. I have Ray Charos's letter. There were letters when they first came to us for approval that showed that they had space for students. And again, students have clinical practice in med-surg, OB, peds, units at specified dates and shifts, and not used by any other school or program and will not be displaced. There is one letter here also from St. Joseph's, from Jacqueline Begata. And again, there is indications that there are shifts available on days, not so much days, but evenings and over the weekend. So from my review, there is space there for this school. So I want to have Dr. Miller talk about what she knows.
I just wanted to add, our NEC mentioned that the last meeting of the schools and Xavier College was held last week. It's the third of the meetings, and we've focused on the schedules. The other two, the stakeholders, CSU in Stanislaus and San Joaquin Delta College shared their schedules, and we added Xavier's projected schedules. And we've been focusing on those, and there's intent to keep meeting so we can improve our working relationships and also mutual trust that there will be no overlapping or no intent to displace anyone. I also want the board to know that our current program for LVNs, pre-licensure, has been at San Joaquin General Hospital for 14 years and 12 years at St. Joseph Medical Center. And in all those years, we've had Thursday evening, Friday evening, Saturday days. For the proposed RN program, the two hospitals added a 12-hour shift on nights. So we have altogether 4 shifts that are available for us with no displacement of other schools, because the night shift on Sunday, 12 hours, which would be a good experience for RNs since they also work on 12 hours on the night shift, are actually, that particular shift is not used by any other schools. And that's the reason those hospitals provided us an additional authorized shift. So for the 4 shifts, the 3 being currently used by the LVNs.
Can I ask a question here?
Sure.
I don't want to interrupt, sorry. So you're going to do clinicals on night shift on a Sunday?
On a
right?
Sunday, but
So that's my
Saturday is
question.
day shift.
Clinicals night shift on a Sunday, correct? Mm-hmm. You're not going to expect students to be in class Monday morning, are you?
Oh, no.
Just
we
making sure.
never do that.
Because
Yes, the
it
reality
is a possibility that, hey, you need to come to a lecture on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
This is the only day we're offering blah, blah, blah test or whatever.
For the 14
And you've spent your entire night working night shift, and then you're going to be required to come to a lecture. We just want to make sure that that's not going to happen, because then people get in car accidents.
It would be very unrealistic to expect anyone to come back, to go straight from 7 a.m. to class.
But
Excuse me, I have a question.
So that's not.
This is done in healthcare organizations all the time. You work all night, and then they say, hey, you got a meeting to go to and competency to go to.
Not in our school.
No, I'm saying this is what happens in the real life. Because, even though I sit up here on the board, I still work in the real life because I still work in the ER.
I understand.
And I know how things go. So I just want to make sure the students are going to be safe and the public is going to be safe.
Yes, that's our primary concern. So
I do have
we
a
never
question,
schedule. I'm sorry.
please. Excuse me, I have a question also about, are you expecting the students to do the whole 12-hour shift?
The plan is to have one 12-hour shift because most RNs work 12-hour shifts. So it's good to have that experience even as a student. And we're not the first school to ever thought of that. Many schools actually go for 12-hour shifts for their students.
I think that I have to kind of bug in here because Stanislaus, CSU Stanislaus, is using a 12-hour shift for student nurses. So I just want to be clear that it's not unusual. It's not really planned. I think they have enough clinical time on the Friday, Saturday schedule.
I'm not disagreeing with
Okay.
the whole 12-hour shift.
I know.
Because I teach 12-hour shift clinicals. What I'm concerned about is staying up all night and then having to go to lecture in the morning.
I think that I can believe Dr. Miller that will not happen.
Okay.
We've never done that, even with the LVN program. It's just not logical to do. But your point is well taken.
I'm excited that you were able to find those shifts and that work with other hospitals and other nursing programs and all work together and agree upon. I think that there's plenty of work out there and there's plenty of clinicals. I think if we all work together, we can get everyone accommodated.
Yes. I agree. And I think I appreciate the other two schools for showing interest in continuing to meet with me about not only the schedules, but, improving our working relationships.
So at the last committee meeting, our NEC answered the questions that we had, and she seems to feel confident in the clinical placement in your program. So if she's feeling confident, we're going to take her word for it.
We are.
My recommendation is to accept the feasibility study.
I will second that.
Thank you.
Any comments from the board? Any public comments?
Mike.
I'm sorry.
Mike.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I wasn't at the April, but I have the same trust. We put people in those positions, and if they're making that recommendation, then I support that, and it looks like they followed through on what was requested.
Thank you.
I'll do it any day. Thank you.
We have a public comment.
My name's Lisa. I'm from San Joaquin Delta College. So on behalf of Debbie Travanier, again, I was here before, she submitted a letter. I don't intend to read it in its entirety, but it does speak to the fact that we have met and tried to collaborate with Dr. Miller and their facilities. We still do express concern about clinical placements based upon some of the shifts that are being used. And one of the recommendations that collaboration that we were looking at the last meeting is the fact that their school uses just 2 of the facilities in our arena, and we use up to 7 schools for clinical placements. And there was a bit of resistance met at the idea of expanding, that there's just not the 2 schools, and I'm expressing concern that just those 2 facilities get extremely burdened because of their size and capacity and the number of schools that they utilize. So I think it's really important that as we go forward, we all consider using multiple facilities.
So your program uses 7 facilities.
Correct.
So are you willing to work collaboratively to share in those 7 other programs?
Well, that was
other
exactly the
facilities?
point. Yeah, 'cause, I mean, there is other availability. So, we do have some conflicts.
And
We
the
have
shifts
been
that she
displaced.
mentioned, does your program do night shift?
We don't do night shift. We do PM shifts.
But night shift?
We are exploring
Night
night
shift.
shifts for the future.
But night shift, your program doesn't
Currently,
do
no,
night shift?
we do not.
Okay, so that doesn't impact your program there if they're on nights, correct?
Correct, but on PM shift, it does impact us. So we do have PM shift rotations, and they have there is conflict.
I didn't hear her mention anything about PM shifts. I heard her mention nights. 12-hour nights.
For the additional shift that the 2 hospitals authorized us to have, that's the Sunday night shift. But for 12 years at St. Joseph and 14 years at San Joaquin, we've had Thursday evening, Friday evening, and Saturday day shift.
Well,
So
it
the
sounds like
conflict
there's-
exists there. Yeah.
So there's a total of 9 facilities in the area that you can use?
7.
7. So as this goes on further, it sounds like you're going to be working a little bit more collaboratively. So
Absolutely.
we won't have to mediate, correct?
No. Our goal is, you know, the common goal to educate people in our arena. But
We don't want to act like King Solomon. Just saying.
so, if it's okay, I will submit the letter, though.
Thank you.
Please submit it to
Okay.
And stay there for a minute because I have another question since we've got you up here and it would help to clarify some of this. The other thing I noticed for out of the acute care setting for pediatrics, they're talking about the Stockton Unified School District. And I noticed that San Joaquin Delta, CSU, Sacramento, University of Phoenix are currently going there and now they're going to go there. Is that going to be an adequate, is the PED situation in the school system such that they can teach that number of students?
The school system's large, and they have about 50 schools that they can accommodate.
So you don't have a concern, there's room for everyone, because that's a good experience to have, but we have to have a large enough population that need, okay.
As you know, with any pediatric rotation, the more concerning area is acute, because San Joaquin General and St. Joe's are the two primary pediatric facilities, and San Joaquin General is set to open their new wing in July. PEDS will be integrated at that time.
Oh, it is, good, okay, because PEDS is my specialty.
Yeah,
Thank you.
there'll be PEDS beds, but less.
Excellent in the schools too, because that's good experience if there's a number of students.
Madam President, just to piggyback on your dean's comments, and for all your deans and directors who are listening, looking at this webinar, this live cast, remember about a year and a half ago, the board compiled a list of alternative pediatric clinical sites. You all should have received that. And I've been stating this many years now. Please review that list. Adopt it, right? Because we know that pediatric is one of the more challenging areas. That list was compiled, not just board staff, but I actually took the advice and solicited information from the community partners, the hospitals and various clinical leaders, and they provided suggestions of alternative pediatric experiences. So that information is out there for you. If you do not take advantage or adopt it, then that's shame on you. But it is available.
Yeah, thank you, and I appreciate that. And the fact is with pediatrics, so even for really chronically ill children, they spend so little time hospitalized in this day and age, and most of it is at an outpatient or subacute level, so this is excellent.
And that list does, it focuses on the various outpatient experiences.
Absolutely, thank you.
I want to thank you for your collaboration, for leading the way, and I hope that other schools will follow. I think together we can accomplish more. There's a lot of clinical, there's a lot of everything. We just need to learn to share. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you very much. We have a first and a second. Seeing no other public comment, Michael Jackson votes yes.
Melda Sehabet votes yes.
Woods, yes.
Phillips, yes.
Valbro, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Jackson, I'd like to have a break now before we go on, if that's possible.
Good luck to you.
Thank you very much. So a 10-minute break, and then we'll reconvene. So the time now is 10:40. So at 10:50, and if you let the board members use the restroom first, please. Thank you very much.
Yes, please. We're on item 7.4, vote on whether to accept program closure and teach out plans for University of Phoenix LVN BSc nursing program and University of Phoenix Sacramento nurse practitioner program.
Hi, my name is Susan Engel, Nursing Education Consultant assigned to the LVN to BSN program, University of Phoenix. On February 11th of 2019, I conducted a board-approved visit regarding the NCLEX pass rates below 75%, and the program was found at that time to have 3 areas of noncompliance. It's on page 2. With CCR 1431 licensing examination pass rate. Oh, excuse me, I forgot to introduce the program. To my right is Jennifer Miller and Dr. Kathy Winston. So again, I conducted a continuing approval visit. The program was found to be in non-compliance with CCR 1431 licensing examination pass rate standard, CCR 1425 Faculty Qualifications and Changes, and CCR 1424 Administration and Organization of the Nursing Program. On March 7th, the program, University of Phoenix, noticed the board that they were going to do a teach-out and close the pre-licensure nursing program. I'd like to, so they submitted their teach-out plan, and it is attached to this document. I'd like to defer any questions to the program representatives.
Are there any questions or comments from the committee and the board? Seeing none, I make a recommendation we accept the teach-out plan for both the LVN, the BSN nursing program, and the University of Phoenix Sacramento Nurse Practitioner program.
I will second the motion.
Are there any public comments? Any comments from the committee? Seeing none, Michael Jackson votes yes.
Melda Sejabat votes yes.
Woods, yes.
Phillips, yes.
Marlboro, yes.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to agenda item 7.5, NCLEX pass rate update.
Good morning. My name is Kitty Doherty. I'm one of the nursing education consultants in the Sacramento office of the board. This is an information-only item. This is the NCLEX pass rate update plus miscellaneous items pertaining to NCLEX examination. The first table you have in front of you this morning is the 12-month rolling total pass rate for April 1 of 2018 through March 31 of 2019. You can see that California had a total of 12,310 first-time testers and a pass rate of 91.57%. And comparatively, that's up a little over 1% over the 12-month rolling total for the previous academic period. In the United States and its territories, the total number of first-time testers was 167,535 first-time testers, and the national rate was 88.52%. And again, that's up over about 1% for the same time period in the last academic year period. Comparatively, and we always add this statistic, for the 12-month rolling total for the range of first-time testers, which is 8,482 to 12,654 first-time testers, the 12-month rolling total comparing other state board jurisdiction finds Texas as number 1 with 12,654 first-time testers and a 12-month total of 92.16%. Second is California with 12,810 first-time testers and a pass rate of 91.57. That's followed by New York with 10,200 and an 87.94%. And then finally in fourth is Ohio with 8,482 first-time testers and an 87.05%. Any questions about that first table of data and that comparison?
No, maybe we should just mention to the deans and directors that they've lost their number 1 spot.
What happened?
Well,
Just saying.
What could be suggested is that Texas has a slightly higher number of first-time testers, and that might have some bearing on that very close first and second positioning.
It's just uncomfortable to go to the National Council of State Boards of Nursing to have that executive officer come up there with his slick back mullet looking at us and his boots on. Oh, hi, Dr. Morris and Mr. Jackson. We know what he'll be doing in August.
Oh dear.
Gloating.
Oh dear. Well, what we can say, and you must always keep this in perspective. Remember, when we do these comparative statistics like this, we're really talking about a range of first-time test takers. So there are a number of smaller boards that might have 93% pass rate or 96% pass rate, but they might have a total of 500 or 700 or 1,200 testers. But year over year, for many years, California has shown in terms of what they've achieved. And again, as you know, we really commend the nursing educators in the state of California and the program leadership that we see demonstrated year over year. So,
and we thank all the deans and directors for all the hard work they do.
Yeah.
But you know how it is when a heavyweight champion finally has to relinquish the belt.
I do understand. It's better for the quarterly, and let me move on to the next table.
I also wanted to acknowledge the NECs, you ladies who work directly with the schools. I mean, it's made possible because of you, the guidance that you give the colleges, the schools. So thank you.
Thank you. It's our great pleasure to work with the nursing educators in the state of California.
Thank you.
The next table is, again, for the same time period. You have the quarter breakdown from 4/118 through 3/31/19. I'm reporting in this particular report on the January through 3/31/19 quarter. You can see that California had 3,734 first-time test takers, and our quarterly rate was 93.55. So that's pretty awesome. Yes. And again, this particular quarterly rate is up almost 2% as compared to last year, January through March of 18. And when we do the quarterly range across all state board jurisdictions of similar sized boards, what we show is California's in the #1 spot, pleased to say, with 3,734 and the 93.55%. Texas is in second with 4,410 for the quarterly period and 93.38%. So we're moving along very nicely, and that's followed by Texas with 2,644 and a quarterly rate of 89.90, and that's followed by Florida with 4,000, a little over 4,000, and a 75.65% pass rate. Any questions about those two reports? The next is the actual breakdown of the pass rates that I just talked about for the January through March, broken out by degree type. And again, as you look at every subcategory within this report, we're trending upward somewhere roughly of 1 to 3%. So we're doing very, very well in terms of degree type pass rates for the associate degree and the BSN ELM combined. Any questions about that table of data? The next item is just an informational item to keep the board up to date in terms of board activities and board staff activities related to NCLEX examination and some of the activities that we're undertaking with next generation NCLEX preparation. You'll see that there's 2 activities listed in this report. The first activity is that Bodrick Caraway, the supervising SNEC, and myself did an exam review April 12th here in the Sacramento region at one of the Sacramento region test centers. The whole purpose of doing the exam reviews is to make sure that from the board's perspective, the NCLEX examination is congruent with our Nursing Practice Act in the state of California, and that the items that are used for testing are RN entry-level test questions. Both of us had the opportunity to look at over 700 questions with representing all different kinds of item types. And our agreement was indeed the exam is doing what it needs to do in terms of being psychometrically sound, legally defensible, and at entry level and congruent with our Nursing Practice Act. The next activity item is a presentation via telephone and PowerPoint that the exam chief, Dr. Dickinson, provided for the nursing education consultants in the state of California. Thank you very much, Dr. Morris, for facilitating arrangement of that. And thank you to Jeanette Wackerly, the supervising SNEC, for facilitating that. Again, what the board staff continues to do is to increase its knowledge and understanding of the research that's going on with the next generation NCLEX testing. And what Dr. Dickinson really reported to us is that as part of that special research project that's been going on, he estimated over 325,000 candidates have participated in that special research, and that they have garnered over 2 million responses relative to next generation exam research that's going on to make sure that the items that are really being developed in the future really will do exactly what they need to in terms of measuring entry into practice in a very precise way. Any questions about those items? And then the final is what customarily is coming in your packet on a regular basis pertaining to NCLEX, which is more detailed information about the clinical judgment model that we've discussed a couple times at several previous meetings. And so we'll continue to periodically provide those news quarterly reports to the board, so the board staff is equally familiar. And then finally, I'd just like to make a comment that Dr. Morris is in the process of working right now to have Dr. Dickinson from the National Council and some of the exam team come out and really speak to all of the pre-licensure nursing educators in California. And I believe Dr. Morris has been working with the COADN and CACN Deans and Directors Annual Meeting Planning Committee and Dr. Dickinson to make that happen fairly soon, so that our educators in California are really well ahead of the curve in terms of really writing those test questions in their programs that are really going to continue to prepare graduates of those programs for the next generation examination. Dr. Morris, did you want to offer any other comment?
Yes. Thank you, Katie, for your report. And just to reemphasize the importance of the joint Deans and Directors meeting for the fall, it's essential that the Deans and Directors, if they cannot make it personally, that they send a representative to attend this joint meeting. I have confirmed with Dr. Dickinson from the National Council that he will be in attendance at this meeting. And I've also talked to the planning committee of the Deans and Directors, COAD and CACN meeting to confirm that there's ample time on the agenda for Dr. Dickinson. I believe it's critical that California continue to be ahead of the curve by being proactive and not just reactive to this, the changes in the NCLEX exam that are coming down the pipe. So, mark your calendars and please make sure you have someone in attendance so that we can be prepared. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
Turn it back over to you, Mr. Jackson.
Moving on to agenda item 7.6, licensing program update.
Good morning. Christina Sprague, Deputy Chief Licensing and Administrative Services, here to give the licensing program update. The licensing program are currently processing the initial review of California and U.S. exam and endorsement applications that we received in the month of May. We are currently processing our 2019 spring California graduating classes. We anticipate to have those applications completely processed by the end of June, of course pending receipt of all of the California transcripts. We are consistently receiving U.S. electronic transcripts daily, and of course this significantly cuts down on our application processing time. The licensing program was we recently compared the average application processing time for out-of-state endorsement applicants from late 2017 to late 2018, and during this time frame, we achieved a decrease in processing time from an average of 72 days to 21 days to issue a license for our endorsement applicants.
No, Christina, say that again, but say it like you mean it. Because I think, hold on, let me, for those who are looking, and especially for the legislators and folks who are concerned, especially several years ago, I don't think they really understand the impact of this. So can you repeat that statement? And I'm not trying to brag or boast, but yes, I am. And I'm very humble, but we do need to really, take credit and dance where we need to dance, for these accomplishments. And the staff has worked very diligently to implement these changes under the leadership of the managers and supervisors. And I just want to really, really drive this home. The board has increased its processes and refined its processes overall. So I'm done talking. Say it again for the camera.
So our compared processing times from late 2017 to late 2018 for endorsement applicants decreased from 72 days to 21 days to issue a license.
Now you can clap.
And of course, it is a direct result of our continuous business process improvements, our increased use of various technological advancements, modernization efforts, and additional staffing.
Christina, before you go on, just on this issue, because it is a big issue, could you explain why it's at 21 days? What are some of the barriers? Because my understanding is some of the barriers are not something that our board has control of.
Majority of the time, it is barriers outside of our control. So it is receipt of transcripts from out-of-state programs. It is receipt of documents directly from the applicants themselves if they haven't provided the necessary documents to complete the processing of their application. Most of the time, the main document, of course, is the transcript. So with us implementing the electronic transcript process for our out-of-state applicants, through third-party vendors, we're able to receive those transcripts a lot faster than through, of course, the snail mail and paper. So we are receiving more electronic documents from our out-of-state applicants as well.
Thank you.
I think also the training, and the communication between the staff.
Well,
also.
Absolutely.
Right.
And of course, with all of that, all of our business processes have changed. So with that, we did have to increase our staff so that we could be more efficient, and training is an ongoing process. So our changes in the licensing program are ongoing. We're not done. We still have a lot of things that we want to accomplish. And we're moving, in that direction. We're moving in a positive direction to achieve those goals. So we will provide more updates as they come available. We will be, of course, obtaining additional staff through the BCP, so that will also assist us to continue to decrease our processing times.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. So with regards to our breeze enhancements, Dr. Morris has already mentioned them in his EO report. I did want to make one clarification. The email notifications actually were pulled from the May release, and they actually are not being implemented until actually this month, in our release this month. So that was one clarification, that they were supposed to go into May, but they ended up being pulled at the last minute. So they will be implemented this month for those email notifications. And then, of course, our second enhancement, which is the renewal postcard, which we are very excited about, that will replace the one-page renewal notice. And I just wanted to bring to your attention that the new postcard will bring a postage savings of approximately $36,000 annually.
I had a question regarding the postcard. Is there
Yes.
going to be the opportunity for them to write their email address? Because hopefully that's the intent, to get everybody's email address. In the future, we will not have to mail out postcards. The renewal.
No, they when they renew their license, or they can do it beforehand, they actually will need to log into their Breeze account and make that change to their email address. And we are collecting email addresses at the time that they renew. It is a requirement now for their renewal. So we have been collecting email addresses, so that in the future, yes, we potentially could move away from even the postcard.
So they can't go past go without filling that section for the email?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
So the postcard will drive the licensee to the Breeze to renew.
It is basically the same as the letter, the renewal letter. The renewal letter was already driving them. We are at 99% of our licensee population that is renewing online, which is big, because our licensee population is over 450,000 licensees. So that is huge. The postcard, of course, we went from the 6-page down to the 1-page, down to a postcard, so we're reducing incrementally until we get to that email notification.
Significant savings.
Yes, significant savings. And at some point, we'll be able to provide savings on the printing costs as well. I just wasn't able to pull that information yet.
Just a point of personal privilege. I renewed about last week, and I did it on Breeze, and it was a breeze. I couldn't believe how easy it was. And the hard stops to make sure I didn't make mistakes. It was very nicely done.
Good.
Thank you very much.
So we've come a long way, because Breeze was not always a breeze.
It is. I was not before. That's true. It's changed a lot from the last time.
We have come a very long way.
Yeah.
Yes, we have. So our Consumer Assistance Call Center, we would like to welcome, we have 3 new supervisors actually in our call center and renewals area. We would like to welcome those new supervisors. Christina Fernandez-Reyes is our renewals unit supervisor. Our call center supervisors are Sharice Cox and Charlotte Marks. So we welcome them to the board. And we look forward to working with them as well. The licensing admin and licensee services management team conducted our quarterly meeting on April 24th of 2019. We discussed the future restructure of the board's units, the budget change proposal, upward mobility opportunities, and our Shining Star nominations. In May, staff had the opportunity to take a class through Solid Training that was designed for BRN employees. The board's complaint intake manager, Sonia Wilson, worked with the Solid Training staff to consolidate several upward mobility classes into one course that would cover key areas for staff. The complaint intake unit had previously taken this course, and then all of the admin, licensing, and licensee services staff took this course in May as well. The course was offered to help prepare staff for upcoming promotional opportunities. This quarter, our Shining Star nominations were our dedicated information technology staff, Jennifer Roseberry and Mark Cardenas. Jen and Mark support over 185 board employees, with 34 of those employees working from home. Jen and Mark were honored with a certificate from the management team and a gift card for lunch. Again, I want to thank Jen and Mark for their dedication to the board and its staff. They're our hardworking IT team. They are there for an instant, a lot of times having to troubleshoot issues over the phone with our telework staff. So they are very hardworking employees, and we honored them at that meeting in May. And then currently in our units, we have 5 permanent vacancies, and below is a chart showing, outlining our new hires, promotions, separations, and vacancies. And then, of course, our 2019 budget change proposal, which was submitted by the board, has been approved, as Dr. Morris had mentioned, and we are currently working with DCA HR to recruit and fill positions as quickly as possible. And then statistics, of course, below is the total number of applications the board has received for the fiscal year, and this was as of the end of May, and we were at 36,271 applications. Of course, we are still receiving additional applications from our California programs, so we anticipate that number will grow. Are there any questions on the licensing report?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the work you did. All right. That concludes the report on the Education Committee.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Jackson. Appreciate that. Now we're going to be moving on to 8.0, which is report of the Legislative Committee, and I'll be chairing that part of the report. And if our legislative people could come forward, please. And just remind the people in the audience, if you want to look at these materials and drill down to even more materials, please go online, because we have, one of the things that's really nice that we've done is that on our grid of the different pieces of legislation that the board is monitoring, if you click onto the numbers, you can actually go right to the bills and get additional information. So we've tried to make it very user-friendly, and so that you can follow along. We won't be discussing specifically all the information that is out there, but you will be able to go forward yourself and drill down and get more information if you're interested. Thank you very much. And now I see people at the table, so please introduce yourselves.
Still morning? Good morning. Thank you.
It is.
I'm Kay Weincombe. I'm a nursing education consultant, and I'm the liaison to the Legislative Committee.
Good morning, Thelma Harris, Chief of Legislation.
Thank you, and please start.
Thank you. Included in your packet has been provided for you is the calendar as to where we are in the legislative session. And with our, the committee, committees both policy and fiscal have started holding their hearings again after being on break. The policy committees need to have their bills to the fiscal committees by July 10th, and then the policy committees need to report their bills out to the floor by July 12th. Then the legislature is on vacation or recess from July 12th until August 12th when they do reconvene. So you can see how there's a break, and kind of meshes nicely with the break that the board will have in its meeting schedule. So 3 months from today, though, all the bills that we've been considering, if they're still live, they do need to be out of their houses of origin and to the governor. So
That's
it's
a short timeline.
90
It's
days.
moving along.
It's going very quickly. So with the materials, there has been, again, a change in how they're presented, so that the first table is now going to contain the bills that would be proposed to be considered by the board today. The following 2 tables, one for the Assembly bills and one for the Senate bills, are an update as to where those bills are in the committee process. So we're not going to be discussing all 3 tables today. It's primarily that first table. So we will start with Assembly Bill 241, and that is Assembly Member Comlager-Dove's bill related to implicit bias. It was last amended on April 30th. Basically, effective January 1st, 2022, it would require continuing education courses to include implicit bias for licensees under the Board of Registered Nursing, the Medical Board of California, and the Physician Assistant Boards. This bill was amended on April 30th, and the most recent legislative committee position was to oppose it unless it was amended.
When they did the latest amendments to it, did they take into consideration some of the things the board had been concerned about at the committee meeting? where we were concerned about trying to have implicit bias education in every single CE. How would we achieve that? And that new grads for the first 2 years would not be taking CE. So how would, if they want everybody to get that education, when would that occur? Maybe it'd be better in the nursing programs and some of the other concerns we had.
The most recent amendment of April does not include those kinds of provisions.
Okay, so those are still things that are outstanding.
Could I make a recommendation we continue to oppose it? Anyone?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, any board comments? Any public comments? Anything that either one of you would like to say before we vote?
I would like to let you know that I did speak with the author's office and I did express the concerns of the board. The pushback was that they definitely want to make sure that implicit bias is made available to the nurses. They look at us as comparing us to what the doctors have done. The medical board has decided to support the bill, and so their concerns that we're opposing unless amended makes them feel why not? When I asked how they expected us to implement this, they're still going back to the implementation of implicit bias in all of our CE courses. So I will continue to drive the recommendations from the board that we'd like to see possibly a 2-hour CE course, something that is more available to us as a board as far as workload, and continue to push through what our desires are and our wants and needs. So they want to support that. To mandate us to do something that we're unable to do, we will not be able to oppose, we will not be able to support the bill going forward.
Thank you very much. And then the other consideration that we had discussed would be in the nursing programs, if they want to include some more education in the nursing programs, to get that out there immediately when people are in school in the academic setting, in addition to something afterwards. Thank you. Is there any more board comment? Are we ready to vote? Mr. Jackson?
Yes. Michael Jackson votes yes.
Nelda Seja-Butt votes yes.
Woods, yes.
Phillips, yes.
Albro, yes.
Assembly Bill 496 is Assemblymember Lowe's bill, and it's under the heading of Business and Professions. And this bill is a code cleanup bill with drafting adjustments that were authored by the staff for the Assembly Business and Professions Committee. And changes include replacing gendered terms with non-gendered terms, among other changes. And then as it was amended on May 6th, the bill formerly only addressed the governor being able to remove a board member from office for continued neglect of duties. And what this bill now does is say that the appointing authority is going to have the power to remove a board member from office for continued neglect of duties required by law, or for incompetence or unprofessional or dishonorable conduct. And the previous board position was a watch on this bill.
I make a recommendation we continue to watch.
I'll second that.
Public comment?
Any board comment? Then we're ready to vote. Mr. Jackson?
Michael Jackson, yes.
Nelda Seja-Butt votes yes.
Woods, yes.
Phillips, yes.
Albro, yes.
Okay.
Assembly Bill 538 is Assemblymember Berman's bill related to sexual assault, medical evidentiary examinations, and reporting. And the bill was amended after the more recent legislative committee, so it was amended on May 30th. And what this bill does is it clarifies that nurse practitioners and physician assistants are going to be able to perform these medical evidentiary examinations, because the current law limits that to only physicians or nurses who are working in consultation with physicians. So that this is going to allow the nurse practitioners and physician assistants to be included in the definition of a qualified healthcare practitioner. And the previous board position on this bill was to watch.
Make a recommendation we continue to watch.
I'll second that. Any board comment? Public comment? Let's move to the vote.
Michael Jackson, yes.
Nelda Seja Backwoods, yes.
Woods, yes. Phillips, yes.
Marlboro, yes.
Assembly Bill 743 is Assembly Member Eduardo Garcia's bill related to pupil health self-administration of prescribed asthma medication. So this bill is going to require that a school district accepts a written statement from a physician who's contracted with a binational health plan for purposes of authorizing the pupil to carry and self-administer inhaled asthma medications that the pupil is going to need to use during a regular school day. And this bill came about because there are students who get care in Mexico, and under their Mexican national or medical plans there, they do have the physician statements, but this would allow that the school districts in California would be able to accept those statements authorizing these students to have and to use these asthma for medications for self-administration. The previous board position was to watch.
Make a recommendation, we continue to watch.
I'll second that. Any board comment? Public comment? Let's vote.
Michael Jackson, yes.
Nelda Seja Backwoods, yes.
Woods, yes.
Phillips, yes.
Marlboro, yes.
Assembly Bill 822 is Assembly Member Irwin's bill related to phlebotomy. This bill seeks to allow phlebotomists to use a new technology to draw blood. This bill is sponsored by the manufacturer of a medical blood draw device trademarked as PIVO, P-I-V-O, but the changes under this bill don't specify a specific procedure or a device. And when it talks about physician supervision, this bill does provide that the physician would be able to delegate registered nurses the authorization to supervise these phlebotomists in the use of this particular device.
I make a recommendation, we continue to oppose.
I second that.
Okay, is there any board discussion? Any public comment? Then let's vote.
Michael Jackson, yes.
Nelda Seja Backwoods, yes.
Woods, yes.
Phillips, yes.
Marlboro, yes.
Okay.
Oh, and although usually when you see that a bill has remained in the Appropriations Committee in its original house, it doesn't mean that it necessarily has died. In this case, this phlebotomy bill is a 2-year bill. So that means it can be heard in January.
Right, so that's why we wanted to take a position.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And the same goes for Assembly Bill 890, the nurse practitioner bill. So this is Assembly Member Wood's bill related to nurse practitioners, scope of practice, and supervised practice. It was last amended on April 22nd, and it basically creates a new advanced practice registered nursing board to regulate advanced practice nurses, either in solo practice.
So it hasn't been amended since the last time we opposed it? I'll make a recommendation,
Correct.
we continue to oppose unless amended.
Second.
Any board comment? Any public comment? Then let's go to the vote.
Michael Jackson votes yes.
Nelda Seja Backwoods, yes.
Woods, yes.
Phillips, yes.
Marlboro, yes.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to Assembly Bill 993. This is Assembly Member Nazarian's bill related to health care coverage HIV specialists. And this bill would require that every health plan or health care or health insurer in the state to allow an HIV specialist who's a physician, physician assistant, or nurse practitioner to be eligible as a primary care provider if the provider requests such status and it meets the plan's criteria for all specialists seeking primary care status. It also specifies that it doesn't have any effect in terms of whether the plans are going to include an HIV specialist as primary care physicians for the purposes of their network adequacy requirements. The Legislative Committee at its May meeting did take a support position for this bill because, again, it does recognize the contributions of the advanced practices of nurse practitioners and physician assistants.
I would make a motion to continue to support.
Second it.
Okay, any board comment? Public comment? Then let's vote.
Michael Jackson, yes.
Imelda Seja Batgos, yes.
Woods, yes.
Phillips, yes.
Marlboro, yes.
Thank you. Assembly Bill 1264 is Assembly Member Petri Norris's bill related to healing arts licensees' self-administered hormonal contraceptions. This bill was amended in April, and the board had not had the opportunity to previously consider it, and the legislative committee did take a watch position in May. So basically, what it does is it clarifies in the existing legislation that appropriate prior examination does not require what they call a synchronous interaction, which is like a video chat conference between the healing arts licensee and the patient for purposes when self-administered hormonal contraceptives can be provided following the use of the self-screening tool. So this legislation had been passed in the last session, but as a result of it, there had been some confusion as to what did that appropriate prior examination really mean.
Make a recommendation, we continue to watch.
I will second that motion.
Any board discussion? Any public comment? Then let's vote.
Michael Jackson, yes.
Imelda Seja Batgos, yes.
Woods, yes.
Phillips, yes.
Marlboro, yes.
Assembly Bill 1622 is Assemblymember Carrillo's position, and it's related to family practice physicians. The bill was last amended on May 13, and basically this bill adds family physicians to a number of code sections that currently refer only to other specialties, such as pediatricians or obstetricians, but where family physicians are also qualified to provide consultation or participate on committees as governed by the codes. And so, as relevant to the Board of Registered Nursing, this means that as introduced, would have required that the nurse advisory or nurse midwifery advisory committee include a family physician as well as an obstetrician. However, as the bill was amended, it removes that requirement and makes it a much more permissive. It's saying that the board is authorized to include family physicians but does not mandate it. The board's position in the past was to oppose, and in light of the current amendment, brought it to your attention to see if there might be a change in that position.
I think we watched last time.
No, we didn't oppose. Because we didn't think that we needed to have more physicians on the advanced practice nursing boards.
Thelma, can you talk more about this bill? I mean, what's...
Besides the changes that have been made, my suggestion or recommendation would be to just continue to watch the bill, because I think they're looking at making changes that would be more comparable to what we would expect.
Okay.
If the board wants to continue to oppose it, we will watch it closely and report back.
Make a recommendation, we watch.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any more board discussion? Public comment? Let's go to the vote.
Michael Jackson, yes.
Imelda Seja Batgos, yes.
Woods, yes.
Phillips, yes.
Marlboro, yes.
Rounding out the report for today, we're going to finish with Senate Bill 697. This is Senator Caballero's bill related to physician assistants, practice agreements, and supervision. So the bill now, because it was amended on April 24th, the bill now no longer, or rather the bill deletes the provision renaming the Physician Assistant Board and placing it within the Department of Consumer Affairs rather than the Medical Board of California. So with this amendment, it still remains under the Medical Board of California. And the bill revises the Physician Practice Act, or Physician Assistant Practice Act, to allow multiple physicians and surgeons to supervise a physician assistant. It recasts the delegation of services agreement as a practice agreement, It eliminates the statutory requirements of medical records review, and it authorizes a physician to supervise 2 additional physician assistants so they can supervise 6 at a time, and it makes other substantive and technical changes. And the last position for the board, or rather the legislative committee position in May, was to oppose this bill. The prior board position was to watch in April.
Okay, Thelma, would you like to make any additional comments on this, since it is moving?
Definitely. SB 697, as Kay was referring to regarding the physician's assistants, I believe at the time the Ledge Committee made our report back in May, and the board, the recommendation was to oppose, was made because we were really watching how this was reflecting nurse practitioners. In the analysis of the bill, there's a lot of information that tries to look at physician's assistants and the relationship of nurse practitioners. And so the board was looking at the fact that the NPs are really working hard to try to obtain independent practice, and putting them in the same category and then pushing forward with what would be in the board's best interest to really look at how this would impact our nurse practitioners.
I'll make a recommendation that we continue to oppose it.
I'll second it.
Any more board discussion? Public comment? Yes, please come forward and identify yourself.
Okay, it's not about this regulation, it's in general about legislation, is that okay?
This is related to this.
What she's
this
done.
topic.
Me at the end.
Yeah, at the end.
Okay, are people ready to vote? Yes. All right, Mr. Jackson?
Michael Jackson, yes.
Melda Seja Batcoats, yes.
Woods, yes.
Phillips, yes.
Marlboro, yes.
Now, could she make her comment? Yeah. Okay, if you want to come forward, introduce yourself and make your comment now, please.
It's at the end of the report.
That concludes this report.
Thank you.
This is mainly commentary in relation to, again, the California Community Colleges Nursing Advisory Council, or as we call it, 3CNAC. We wanted to make some comments in related to the proposed pre-licensure nursing regulations and the updates, and it seemed that a lot of this was driven partially by the AB 1364 and some of the other things that are going on legislatively. And I think I have the last update of the proposed regulations, and I want to say that we're very much supportive and thankful for your actions on this and your attention to this. We have some concerns on regulations, and that has to do with the burden on directors of nursing in the various education programs, that if we do add too many layers of reports and various things that they must do, it could even increase the difficulty we're having now with replacing retired nursing directors.
Is this related to Assembly Bill 1364?
It is somewhat related to that. I know that bill is dormant.
That bill
yes.
is gone.
Yes.
Right.
But it seems that the regulations are already still an active. Is this the wrong place to address this?
No, she's talking about regulation, not legislation.
Not legislation.
So that's not the appropriate forum for this.
Right.
Because we did it a little bit earlier today.
I know. I should have commented then. I didn't realize that was the wrong place.
There's actually a lot of opportunity for public comment, and one of the things that if you'd like to submit a letter.
Okay.
I think Thelma's email address is probably on the staff report, in the meeting materials. And if you want to, I mean, you can submit it that way, or if you wanted to take a point of personal privilege, since we've already voted on it,
Right.
It's not going to impact any.
Yeah.
action.
So if you have something in your hand right now, you can hand it to Thelma. She
I
can give
don't.
you her business card so that you can, and the email address, so you can continue to communicate. But as a point of personal privilege, I will let you this time go forward with what you're saying. But in the future, this wouldn't be exactly the time in the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you for your guidance with this, and I apologize.
Sometimes it's very confusing. So
Right.
We appreciate you wanting to give input, and we'll let it go this time.
Oh, okay, thank you. So I think some of our concerns with regard to the updates in the Code of Regulations for nursing programs, education programs, had to do with what we support, which is in general almost everything that you have developed, and we appreciate that very much. I think I wanted to just bring up a few concerns, and some of those included some of the things that we might suggest may also help in relation to some of these other things is that we discussed the development of consortiums being somehow more supported by the board or developed in a way that throughout the state we would have regional consortiums that are truly active for the different nursing schools so that they are really mandated or somehow needing to meet and discuss clinical displacement since this is such a big issue. Also, we have concerns also about any clinical size requirement that might be existing for the ratio of student to instructor. That could get difficult because there are so many variations throughout the state. So that isn't something that we would consider would be helpful. If there is some way that we could develop some incentives in working with hospitals, we would appreciate that. We do not have a solution at this point, but we see it as an issue that sometimes it's hard to bring hospitals to the table with working with consortiums.
Is that everything?
Moving students from one clinical place within a hospital to another and having to report to the board on that may be difficult. That may be a difficult thing to do. I don't know, do you have any comments, Wanda, at this time? I think that's it. That's
Okay,
it.
we
But
won't
thank you.
be able to comment at this time,
Yeah,
but we're happy you gave us the information, and if you'll just give that to Thelma or email it to her so we can look at it at a later time.
Okay, and thank
you
you
so much.
again for considering our input.
Sometimes it's very confusing where on the agenda to place things or what to do. So
Thank you.
we're all learning and things are changing.
Trandy, we need to check out.
Pardon?
There's some board members that need to check out.
Yeah, okay. So now at this point on the legislative report, I believe we are complete because the other things that you will see on the grid are not going to be, we're not changing positions. And there hasn't been a lot of movement, so we don't need to discuss today, is my understanding. So before I end this report, is there any other board member comment? Any public comment? That I'm going to be finishing item 8.0, which is the legislative report. And we're going to take is 10 minutes enough time or the board members need more?
I think so.
Okay, so we'll take a 10-minute break and then go into the intervention committee. All right, we're coming back into session now, and we're going to go on to item 9.0, which reported the Intervention and Discipline Committee. And I hand this over to Ms. Saya Beckwith, our chairperson.
Okay, moving along to 9.0, report of the Intervention Discipline Committee. And if you can please introduce yourself.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Joseph Pacheco. I am the Deputy Chief of Enforcement, responsible for complaint intake and investigation programs. And I'll begin my report. I'll start with the complaint intake update. My previous updates have reported that the complaint intake team has heavily recruited for expert practice consultants to review practice-related investigation cases. I've also reported the addition of one staff person dedicated to the preparation, delivery, and payment of the expert workload. And the improvements in volume and processing times are noticeable. When comparing the first 3 months of 2019, that's January through March of 2019, to the same period last year, complaint intake is processing 43% higher volume, 165 cases this year versus 115 cases last year, while simultaneously reducing the overall processing times for our expert workload by 23%. It's 35 days currently compared to 46 days last year. As we continue to recruit more experts and improve our internal processes, I do anticipate the unit will be able to handle the increased workload of practice-related complaints that are coming through, and I'll talk about that increased volume later in my report. Our complaint intake unit is fully staffed with no vacancies. Workload, the committee requested at a prior committee meeting for a workload comparison for year to year, and I have prepared that for the committee and the board. And I'm comparing 2018 to 2019 complaint intake workload. The first table in my report shows fiscal year 2018 workload as of May 29th, 2018. And you can see the workload here, a total workload of 7,986 year to date to that date in May. And I have public complaints at 3,269, licensee arrest and conviction reports 1,312, and applicant conviction and disciplinary reports 3,405. And on the next table you compare year to year, and this is as of May 21st, 2019, the board has received 3,891 public complaints against our licensees. That's a 19% increase from last year. Licensee arrests and conviction reports, 1,194. That's an 8% reduction year after year. And applicant conviction and discipline reports, year up to today, 2,808, and that's a 17% reduction from last year, which is good to show, or I like. And a total complaint volume is essentially unchanged year to year, 7,893, and there is a 1 week difference from the comparison, so I'm going to say total complaint workload is exactly the same as last year. Our public complaints are significantly higher than last year, but the board, we've seen reductions in the other categories of cases. So I do believe we'll see essentially equal workload, just in different areas. I intend to do a more broad comparison of workload over the years. The committee has asked for it, and we should see that after I have year-end data as of July 1. Our open complaint intake workload, as of May 19th, complaint intake has 623 open desk investigations pending. 50 of those are pending over 1 year old. We have 384 open applicant cases with 23 over 1 year old. And we have 33 cases currently pending expert review, which is a significant reduction from months past. Our increase in processing has reduced the number of open cases out to expert, which I'm very happy about.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So the applicant conviction and discipline reports,
Yes.
the applicant conviction, is that a tribute to the outreach that we are doing, that we're getting the word out, that any of this convention?
I'd really like to, I'd like to attribute it to the outreach that we've been doing with students and our presentations that we're doing, but we don't have enough data to conclusively say that. Last year was our highest number of applicant conviction reports ever. It was the highest ever. I don't know what that's attributable to. I'm hoping people and nursing students are understanding that DUIs will have a significant impact on their licensure, and can cause some serious difficulties with licensure after their license. I'm hoping our outreach is reaching enough students in that regard.
I would think that it is a tribute to that. I mean, we're doing a lot more than we had last year.
And let me say, Joe, I need you to toot your horn on this. You can be
Yes.
modest about it, but I want you to take credit for this.
Right.
I mean, what are you doing differently than what you've done previous years? And this is the outreach, and the type of outreach, and the amount of outreach that's happening.
Totally agree.
So I think, we're going to continue to collect the data, but the personal outreach face-to-face, you're visiting not only the hospitals and various clinical agencies, you're also actively talking to those schools, upon request. In addition to the live webinar we've done. I mean, all of these changes, I think, have a significant impact on our population. So we have to continue to do such, but also take credit for it.
Shannon and I
Shannon,
both
you and Shannon.
have taken our show on the road, and twice in the last year and a half, we have spoken to the deans and directors at their conferences, talking about enforcement and how it impacts applicants. And I'm certain the word is getting out.
Well, I can tell you some of the preliminary data that I have, and I have not shared it with the public. There was questions that were addressed on the follow-up survey to the webinar, Amilda, and I can tell you most, if not all, of the respondents have said that they have implemented, your suggestions in their curriculum.
That's
so
good to know.
Either prior to or at the very end. So the deans and directors are making sure that the information is being communicated to the students.
I have another question. So on your report of the public complaints received and the other reports, is there any way, and I don't know if it's appropriate to put it in this category, is there a way of maybe identifying those nurses that are reporting other nurses? Do you have that information? Or is it somewhere down another report?
I don't have that data in this particular report. I have reported on sources of complaints in the past, and I can definitely include that in some statistics that we have. We don't have a category for complainant data capture if it's another nurse, but we do capture if it comes from the industry, meaning a coworker, a supervisor, or the hospital itself.
Well, that's about the same, isn't it?
It's similar, just not exact, and I can include that in my statistical reports.
It would just be interesting because it is a discussion, a topic that we're, pursuing. The other question was the applicant cases pending 1 year. There's 23 of those. Is that just simply because they're not providing the information that you need, or why are they a year old? I mean, they took the NCLEX, and obviously we want to get them out to become a nurse and to start practicing. So what are some of the reasonings?
The vast majority, and I don't want to give exaggerations, but I think almost all of those cases are endorsement applications. Okay. Nurses coming from another state, they are found deficient because we don't have enough documentation to review it, and they stop responding. And the cases, those applicants, the application becomes abandoned after a certain amount of time, and we hold them we give them a year to produce the documentation that we've requested for their application. That's probably the majority of these. I don't think any of them, there might be one or two, but I don't think any of them are in-state California graduates.
Thank you for the clarification. I'm glad to hear that you only have maybe 2 or 3 and the rest are from out of state. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions before I go on to investigations? Okay, moving on. Investigation timeframes have been a major focus of mine for both the BRN Investigation Unit and DCA's Division of Investigation. And of course, not all investigations result in disciplinary action. The role of the investigator is to gather all of the evidence, including evidence that may prove that there's no violation of the Nursing Practice Act. However, for cases where the RN is impaired, or when an RN's incompetency or gross negligence has resulted in significant patient harm or death, BRN's disciplinary action cannot go forward without a complete investigation. Our timeframes will be a focus of mine going forward, and the committee will receive reports from me, and I will include investigative timeframes and my actions to improve those timeframes at every committee report.
The investigation, where's the holdup? With a complete investigation, where's the bump?
I think the most significant time issue has to do with obtaining the proper records that we need to evaluate the allegation. For patient care cases, we need the patient's medical records. We need policies and procedures from the facility. That takes a significant amount of time. Sometimes subpoenas are required, and when there's objections to those subpoenas, we and D of I, we have to go to court to get a court order, and that takes months. If there's an objection on either side, whether it's the hospital or the patient, And we need those records for our investigation. We have to go to court.
So months, a couple of months, not a year, hopefully.
We have a case right now where we've been waiting for a hearing for a year just to get the patient records because of the hearing dates for those.
Wow, that's alarming, because I'm sure they're still practicing.
Well, our subpoenas, we do have subpoena authority, but our law doesn't have any consequence to any facility not complying with that subpoena.
We need to work on the regulations. Thank you.
Welcome. For staffing, the BRN investigation unit has one vacant supervising special investigator position in our central unit, and that recruitment is ongoing. And I have some summary statistics for investigations. Cumulative referrals, those are new cases being referred out for investigation this year. We've referred 422 cases to the Division of Investigation, and we've referred 751 cases to our internal BRN investigation unit. And it's essentially a 1/3 to 2/3 split as to where those cases are going. And for closures, for fiscal year to date, the Division of Investigation has closed 337. Average days to complete those investigations are 335 days. Average hours per case is 39 hours, with a cost recovery rate of 7,601 for the investigation. And for the BRN investigation unit, they've closed 644 cases. Average days to complete them is 198 days, with an average hours of 28.8 hours per case and a cost recovery rate of 2,534. And as of May 29th of this year, our internal BRN investigation unit has 7 investigations that have been open for more than a year, and the Division of Investigation has 108 open investigations over a year old. And that concludes my report. Okay?
On the cases that go to the BRN investigation unit,
Yes.
how many or what percentage of those then have to go eventually to the DOI?
None.
Or any of them?
None. It's an either or. So
Okay.
the fork in the road is before referral. The case, depending on the severity of the case, is either referred to Division of Investigation and they complete the entire investigation, or it goes to our internal one. And they're completely separate.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question too. Is there any chance of us getting any of those cases back that have gone to the DOI? Because I know we did deal with some of them and then we were told we no longer could.
Yes.
Is there anything going forward on resolving that or
Well,
changing that?
by law, I'm required to follow, my staff is required to follow the Consumer Protection Enforcement Initiative guidelines on case referrals. So our staff reviews the allegation or the complaint against the nurse. We then have to categorize it, and urgent and high priority cases, by law and regulation, I must send to the Division of Investigation. And then there's other categories that my team internally keeps. It is a discussion item between us and Division of Investigation and DCA, but until those guidelines unless they're changed or modified, the way the cases go is pretty much set. I'm required by law to adhere to those guidelines.
Thank you.
Yep.
But we are continuing to have those conversations to see how we can assist or get some of those cases back without having to revise the guidelines, correct?
I do have weekly meetings, so cases that are, I'll call them on the fence, where the complaint can't easily be categorized, we do meet and have a second level triage between me and DOI, and that has really improved. It's reduced the number of cases that go back and forth. So we get it referred to the right place first, the investigation starts earlier, and it gets completed sooner.
Yeah, so the concern here, I mean, when the DOI, when they have the cases pending, average hours per case 39.0. The longer they have it, the costly it gets for the petitioner. The cost is like extremely high.
Yes.
And then when it comes before us, we reduce it. So it's like we're defeating the purpose. In most cases, they ask for a reduction, and if they qualify for the reduction, we do give them that reduction. So again, I think we're defeating the purpose.
I think also we just want to be able to close these cases one way or another, get them closed more rapidly. And 335 days is a long time to have to wait to close a case.
So, Milda, just to emphasize what Mr. Pacheco is saying, there are ongoing meetings scheduled with DFI so that we can help improve the process.
Thank you, Dr. Morris.
And hopefully by the next committee meeting, you can report back as to what those discussions and please.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions? And really quickly, moving on to agenda item 9.1.1, the committee had asked for an update on Senate Bill 799's reporting requirements regarding a study on mandatory reporting. So Senate Bill 799 created the Business and Professions Code section 2761.5. It was passed in October of 2017, and it required the California Research Bureau to deliver a report to the legislature evaluating to what extent employers voluntarily reported disciplined nurses to the board and offer options for consistent and reasonable reporting mechanisms. The completed report is attached here for the board's review. Some of the highlights were that they studied mandatory reporting or reporting requirements across the country, and they found that 18 states have no mandatory reporting requirements, including the California Board of Registered Nursing. 19 states had mandatory reporting for employers of some type or another. 27 states had mandatory reporting requirements for RN licensees, and 8 states had mandatory reporting requirements for other health professionals as it relates to RN workload. The report does discuss the various types and mechanisms of mandatory reporting practices in other states, and it highlights that there are 3 healthcare-related boards in California that have some type of mandatory reporting requirement in their law. That includes the Chiropractic Board, the Respiratory Care Board, and the Board of Vocational Nursing and Psychiatric Technicians. So that's my short summary of that report. It's 40 pages long. The California Research Bureau makes no recommendations to the board or to the legislature. It was an informational only report.
I have a question on some of these reports. For example, for California, it has a total amount of complaints. But on some of them, like New York, for example, there's a not applicable. Why? They didn't have enough information? Why is it not applicable? I was wanting to compare, our state with the others.
Yeah.
And for example, Texas, I think was the same. It's like, it's not applicable. We don't know how many complaints they received compared to us.
I can't speak for the California Research Bureau. It could be that they've asked for the data and didn't receive it, or the agency wasn't able to provide it to them before the report was due.
And just to echo what Mr. Pacheco was saying, Amelia, in my brief conversation with the representative from the California Research Bureau, they did say that a lot of information wasn't available or it was difficult to obtain it. Or it just did not exist.
Right.
Or it just did not exist at all.
It's really hard to compare.
Well, yeah, exactly. And that's actually one of the comments within the report, is that it is very difficult to compare and contrast, because the laws from state to state vary so widely that it's hard to have an apples to apples comparison.
Is there any comments from the board pertaining to, what was the numbers? Sorry.
9.1.1.
And the one before that? Because I didn't ask for, is there any comments from the board? How about from the audience? Public comments?
you. Saskia Kim, California Nurses Association. This is on item 9.1.1. Thank you for the opportunity to quickly comment about the CRB's report. Most importantly, the report found, as Ms. Pacheco mentioned, that the data does not support that an increased number of complaints correlates with mandatory reporting. The CRB also recognized that reporting is already occurring because, I'm going to quote, the patient-centered tradition is a source of individual and collective pride, and this explains why nurses actually report patient care violations at a comparatively higher rate compared to other medical professions. The report's Appendix 4, Management, Bullying, and Retaliation in Nursing, also recognized the importance of the retaliation issue and validated our concern that mandatory reporting could be used in a retaliatory manner by, and I'm going to quote again from the report, by managers to punish and retaliate against nurses for workplace organizing or for reporting for quality of care violations. And the report also acknowledged the potential impact on patient safety when nurses are punished for complying with the standards of competent performance, which requires them to be advocates for their patients. So the report stated that nurses may at times find themselves in opposition to managers and employers, and discipline that punishes nurses fulfilling their role as patient advocates causes the disciplinary process to work at odds with patient health outcomes. So in sum, the CRB found that the data simply doesn't support expanded mandatory employer reporting as a measure to safeguard patients. And in fact, mandatory reporting can have the opposite effect when it results in nurses being punished for advocating for their patients. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, so we can go ahead and move along.
Hey, I'm Shannon Johnson. I am the Deputy Chief over Discipline, Probation, and the Board's Intervention Program. And I'm going to start with 9.2, the Probation Unit. So the unit currently has 2 vacancies. One is a probation monitor position, staff services analyst, and the other is sports support staff, office technician, and we hope to have both of those filled by the new fiscal year, so July 1. Currently, the caseloads still remain at about 91 cases per monitor. Our employment approvals and modifications of employment, I know on the notes here it says 4 to 5 weeks, but we're back down to about 2 to 4 weeks for the approval of those. As of May 10th, there were 11 probationers. And let me just go back for a second. So you had asked at the last committee meeting that I report on the number of probationers that are not compliant with just the employment requirement, because there is a lot of talk about once you go into probation, you're unable to find employment. So we found that there's 11 probationers, and you wanted them broken out by county. So I have Los Angeles 4, San Bernardino 1, Riverside 1, San Diego 1, Orange 2, Placer 1, and San Joaquin 1. So that's about 1% of our probationers that are in-state. That doesn't even include the tolled, just the in-state probationers. That's about 1%.
And we have nursing leaders that are willing to hire these people.
Well,
they just need to know where to go.
The other thing I want to mention is in our next webinar that we're doing for licensees, I want to take that opportunity to reach out to the employers in the state of California that are employing these nurses to possibly work with the board to contact me and employ our probationary or intervention nurses. These nurses are monitored very closely. They just very well may be the most safest nurses practicing because they're monitored so closely out there.
I think that's a very good point, because some of the employers that do hire these nurses and monitor them or continue their employment, if they could give some of their rationale for why they do it and some of their success stories. And I've heard some of those, but I don't think that the other employers really have. So if we can promote it more and then promote to people where there are opportunities for employment.
Right, and right now if there's any employers out there that want to work with the board, they can contact me. And I'm more than happy to assist them in trying to get some of our nurses employed.
Thank you for that information. I know that when the petitioners come to us for early term, or one of the things that they state is, I can't find employment, right? And so that's why we asked for that information, is how many actually cannot find employment, but the numbers are very low.
They are very low.
Thank you for that information.
Currently right now we have 868 in-state probationers. 399 that are out of state for a total of 1267. Are there any questions on probation before I move on? Okay. Cite and fine to date, well, not to date, but as of May 22nd, we've issued 522 citations. We have received payment on 337 and have had 53 appeal conferences. We've ordered a little over 375,000, and we've received just over 274,000.
So from those citations, those that are delinquent or not paying, is there any consequences? Do you hold their license?
Yes. What happens with the citation is they're not allowed to renew their license until the citation is paid in full. Also, after we send out 3 notices to the RN to let them know that they are not compliant with their payment on their citation. Should they not comply after the 3rd notice, we send them to the Franchise Tax Board for collections.
Well, maybe you do a cease and desist. Get their attention.
Well, they can't renew their license, so therefore.
Yeah, but in the meantime, they're still practicing. I mean, there's.
Well, I would hope most employers check that, and if they're registered with the National Council of Nurses website, they'll get notification when their license becomes delinquent.
Okay, thank you.
I'll move on to the discipline unit. We currently have actually 2 vacant office technician positions. One is left for another unit or another agency, and one has been promoted into our probation unit. Currently, we actually have 1,483 pending cases for disciplinary action. 1,103 are at the AG's office pending. 68 are ready for board vote. 58 of them are being processed right now for their final decision, and 160 are pending hearing. Over 2 years at the AG, we have 52 cases, and over 2 years, it's 172 cases. Or excuse me, over 2 years, it's 52. 1 to 2 years, it's 172. And I just want to point out that a year ago, we were at about a little over 170 cases over 2 years old at the AG's office. And so we've worked very hard to cut that more than in half.
And also, I want to mention that pending a board vote, when I first started.
Yeah, that was over 100. And I believe due to the change in the STIP process for early terminations of probation or modifications of probation, that has really decreased the amount of cases that are waiting to go before the board. And they don't have to wait as long. Before, they were waiting 9-10 months. By the time they came before the board, their probation was over in a month. And now they're able to get their STIP modifications or terminations done within a month or 2.
Yeah, thank you. That's big help.
Huge, huge help. And I'm sure the probationers really appreciate that as well. For the AG referrals, so current fiscal year, we have referred over 1,216 cases to the Attorney General's office. We have filed 81 petitions to revoke. We've served 943 pleadings. Our EO has signed 280 surrenders. We've withdrew 2 statement of issues, which are applicants, and we've adopted 1,192 decisions. And that is it for 9.2. Any questions? I've also attached these statistics for probation for your review as well.
Thank you. I think you both are doing a great job, and thank you for all your help.
So I'll move on to 9.3. Okay, 9.3 is the intervention program, and we currently have a staff services manager vacancy, which we will be hiring for that position next week, and I will be able to report that to the next committee in August. On April 16th, the intervention program conducted their mental health ad hoc committee meeting, which we'll talk about in 9.4 through 9.4.5. We're currently involved with the DCA and contracts and legal in discussing our request for proposals for the new intervention vendor. Currently we have Maximus, so the contract is up in December 31st of this year, and so we'll be going out for bid for a new contractor. Outreach, Joe and I have done a few outreach just recently. On May 1st, we did a presentation to the students in Xavier College in Rockland. On May 6th, we were at Pacific Union in Anjouan. And then we also did a presentation for UNAC in San Diego on May 28th. Any questions on 9.3? Let me report on our vacancies, which in 9.3.1 I'll be asking for the board's vote on. But we currently have 4 physician member vacancies: San Jose IEC 7, Los Angeles IEC 3, Fresno IEC 5, and Irvine IEC 4. And then there are 2 public member vacancies, one in San Jose IEC 7 and then one in Fresno IEC 5. And I've also attached the intervention statistics also for your review. Any questions on 9.3?
Any comments from the audience?
Okay. 9.3.1, we'll be asking for the board vote on the following. We have 2 new appointments. Carrie Randazzo is a public member, Central Valley 5. Lori Koplinger is an RN member for Central Valley 5, and those are 2 new appointments. And then we have the following reappointments. Millie Lowry, public member, Sacramento IEC 1. Danica Schauer, RN member, Bay Area IEC 2. Cynthia Gravogel, RN member, San Diego IEC 10. Tracy Fineff, RN member, North Coast IEC 11. Linda McInnes, public member, North Central IEC 12. John Harsney, MD member, Santa Ana IEC 14. And then we also have Barbara Henson, RN member, Central Valley IEC 5.
I make a recommendation that we accept all for appointments and reappointments.
I second that.
Any discussion? Any comments from the board? The audience? Seeing none, I call for the vote, starting with
Michael Jackson, yes.
Imelda Ceja Budkowitz, yes.
Woods, yes.
Phillips, yes.
Malbrough, yes.
Okay, I'll move on to 9.4. This is in regards to the mental health ad hoc report. I'll go through 9.4 through 9.4.5, and we'll vote at the end. And I just want to say, later you may be seeing these again if we promulgate these through regulation. But today we're voting on moving forward with them. Okay? So 9.4, just a little background. On November 15th, the board established the Mental Health Ad Hoc Committee to develop the best practice strategies to meet unique needs of the nurses with mental illness and develop a model rehabilitation plan for use by all the evaluation committees. So 9.4.1, it's to vote to approve the revisions to guidelines for mental health, pre-IEC assessment. 9.4.2 is to vote to approve the revisions to intervention program guidelines for impairment due to mental illness. 9.4.3 is to vote to approve revisions to the intervention program guidelines for monitoring participant compliance. 9.4.4 is to vote to approve the revisions of proposed intervention program guidelines for considering a participant for clinical reassessment. And finally, 9.4.5 is to vote to approve the revision to intervention program criteria for successful completion.
I make a motion to approve 9.4.1 through 9.4.5.
I'll second that.
Is there any comments from board members? Comments from the public? Seeing none, I call for the vote.
Michael Jackson, yes.
Imelda Ceja Budkowitz, yes.
Woods, yes.
Phillips, yes.
Malbrough, yes.
Okay, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon and Joe. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Imelda. Thank you very much. Okay, and now I'd like to move on to item 10.0, which is election of officers. So I will be handling the election of officers. I open this now for nominations for position of board president. And I would like to nominate Michael Jackson for board president. What happened? You. Did I miss something?
No.
Yeah. I will second that.
All right. Mr. Jackson, are you accepting the nomination?
I will humbly accept the nomination.
Okay. Is anybody else being nominated for board president? Seeing no other nominations, then we should go forward with the vote. I'm starting with Mr. Jackson.
I vote for myself, yes.
Okay.
I vote for Mr. Michael Jackson.
Woods, Jackson.
Phillips, Jackson.
Marlboro, Happy Jackson.
All right, so I am announcing the vote, and we have unanimously elected Mr. Jackson as our new president. Now I would like to open the nominations for the position of vice president. Do I have any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Donna Gerber once again for the role.
And I'll second that nomination. Is there anybody else that's going to be nominated? Okay, seeing no other nominations, is there any discussion by the board? Okay, then I'll start with Mr. Jackson, and let's do our vote.
Michael Jackson votes yes.
Melissa Atwood votes yes.
Woods, yes.
Phillips, yes?
Marlboro, yes.
All right, so Donna Gerber is now our new vice president, and so we have our election of officers for the next year.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and I'd like to say that I thank you all for the moment of silence that you gave to my mother. And I'm very humbled to serve in the role again, and I do this role in honor of her. Those of you that don't know, my mother was a vocational nurse from back in Missouri. She worked at the University of Kansas in the burn unit for a long time. And she also worked long-term care for many years. And one of the things that frustrated me about her is that she refused assisted living until the day she died. She refused to go to assisted living or have anyone come into her home to care for her. And that's one of the things that frustrated me. She did not want to leave that place or even move to California with me. She wanted to remain independent for the rest of her life. And that's what she told me she would do. She was like, you don't have to worry about me, just come and check on me and collect the body when I'm done, is what she told me always. So you know what I have to deal with working as a nurse. I was already prepared. Nurses are very stubborn, and they're the most difficult patients that you will ever care for in your life.
I'll second that.
And that's a non-nurse member of the board that deals with the rest of us.
So thank you very much, everyone.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. And I want to say that I want to thank everybody for the support that I've had. I've been president for 2 years. I've had incredible support from the board, from the executive officer, from the BRN staff, and I've really appreciated it. And it's been and the DCA and the other agencies we work with, Governor's Office, it's been a real honor. And I thank you all for having elected me and giving me that honor. And I think I leave you in good hands with the son of a nurse.
But she's not going away.
Oh no, they're not letting me get away that easily. Now I'd like to go back to, as a point of personal privilege, I'd like to go back to items not on the agenda in case there was anyone that wasn't able to be here at the beginning of the meeting. Please identify yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Wanda Morris. I am the Director of Nursing at El Camino College, formerly the Director of Nursing for El Camino College and El Camino College Compton Center. I just wanted to publicly acknowledge the board and the Educational Licensing Committee for their support along the way while both campuses underwent the reapproval of separating Compton College from El Camino College District. If officially, last Friday, the two campuses separated and now are working independently. There is a new Associate Dean of Nursing that was hired for the Compton College campus. Lastly, but not least, I would definitely like to recognize supervising nursing education consultant Badri Caraway, because without her support and assistance, I'm not really sure if that would have been possible. It was extremely difficult having two separate campuses to be responsible for, even though the two campuses operated under the same umbrella and will continue to operate under the same umbrella until changes are made at either campus, particularly with the change that we just implemented, the major curriculum revision, which was very difficult to walk through, but Badri Caraway kept us focused along the way, all the way. She has very strong leadership skills, and she's very supportive, and she was always reachable no matter what time I called her. And so I just wanted to publicly give her acknowledgement for what she has done to help support me as well as the two colleges.
Thank you, Padre. Thank you.
Madam President, I want to publicly say, Dr. Morris and I, there is no affiliation. And just because she has the name Dr. Morris and I'm Dr. Morris, we are no kin, at least that I know of. You never know. So again, thank you for all your support, Wanda, for the students and what you do, and the nursing education consultants. They really work very diligently and hard to carry out the mission of the board.
That they do. The board really appreciates it. We know that all parts of the BRN and all of our staff work incredibly hard. And so we really appreciate all of you. I'm constantly just thanking everybody for the hard work they do.
And we know
it's
that,
nice to see people getting
and we know you will breathe life into that program. Once again,
Dr. Morris.
Dr. Morris, we know you'll breathe life into that program.
Yes, I will.
There is life after divorce. You'll be all right. And the students will be too.
And once again, before I adjourn this meeting, I want to thank the people of Reading and the staff here. It's been a wonderful experience for us as our first time coming here. And so it's been a real pleasure. And so now I'd like to do item 11.0, and I'm adjourning the meeting for today. And everybody have a safe trip home. And some of you have a long commute, so stay safe. Thank you.